You are listening to a special Best Of edition of This Life featuring Celebrity Rehab alumni.
You live.
Hey, this is Dr. Drew, and you were listening to This Life
with Bob Forrest
and Dr. Drew.
Here we are.
We are going to be joined in just a moment by the great Tom Sizemore. He'll be with us by Skype, and we've had a little bit of technical issues getting him on board here, so that's kind of what we're working on right now. Bob's sitting over there working on the Skype, and we know Tom well. Tom and Bob and I go back over 10 years together, and he eventually did Celebrity Rehab, and he's doing really well. Now he's written a book. The author is here. It's Anna David. She's joining us as well. And let's get right to it.
How are you guys? How is everybody? How was your holidays?
Really
everybody
good. Really good. How about you?
Me too.
Yeah. So
and I got this big job just last Monday.
So we can say it. We can talk about the job. We just can't talk about the specifics, right?
Right. I can't talk about anything except that it's 18 episodes on Showtime.
Right.
There you go.
David, Mr. Lynch is directing all of them, and Kyle MacLachlan. I'm at liberty to say these following: Kyle MacLachlan's coming back, Laura Dern, Sherilyn Finn, and Heather Graham. And there's 3 leading characters, and I'm one of them.
How
And
cool.
we start principal photography January 15th.
Oh my God!
You didn't know about Twin Peaks?
Well, I didn't know you were a fanatic about
I'm a
it.
fanatic.
I didn't know it was coming back. I was a fanatic.
So here's the thing that I wanted to tell you when I saw you. This couple is now doing this thing that's really fun, which is they're having huge birthday parties for homeless kids at the mission. And so
This couple's doing what? Bob, repeat that again.
They're doing birthday parties for all the little kids who are, living in the missions and living in Skid Row and homeless. And they do birthday parties for the kids.
That's cool.
Is this
such a great thing?
Lattice Park? Is
When
that where it is?
Are you
No,
gonna
it's
help
in
out?
the mission, the actual mission. They give them the rental, the space to throw the birthday parties.
Downtown.
Yeah, downtown. That's Tom's domain. That's how he got it together.
At the mission?
Most
how he
people
got it
go
together.
downtown to get high.
Believe it or
Tom
not,
goes
that is how he got it
downtown to get
together.
off drugs.
Believe it or not, that's true. That's how I got it together. I didn't think that would be the way. It was just I fell into it.
Huh.
With
I
Clancy.
went over there one day. I
Clancy.
went over there one day at someone's. I don't remember who even just suggested it to me.
It was
may have
me.
even been you, Bob.
It was me.
And I ended up running into Clancy, and he said, "Well, come back. Why don't you come back and whatever tomorrow or whatever?" And I came back a couple days later, and then I just started going there every day for a long time, and that was the linchpin between Drew and inpatient treatment to a more normal, just going to the 12-step meetings with Denny Trejo, who's my sponsor, and but Clancy was the bridge.
Clancy's awesome.
Clancy likes Celebrity Rehab.
Oh my God.
What's that?
Clancy likes celebrities.
I mowed his lawn a couple
Does he
times.
really?
I wanted to mow his lawn since so many people had. So I actually asked him
He
if I
won't
could.
have celebrities mow his lawn.
I asked him if I could, and he said no. I said, why can't I? And he said, because you want to.
Here's how
What?
far you've come. The only thing I remember you had then was an old beat-up Bose stereo. That was the only remnant left of the old Tom Sizemore life.
It's gone.
You had the really expensive
I know what you're talking about.
Bose
It was a
stereo.
Bose. It was white. It was a Bose white stereo.
It was like
From my,
Steve Martin
from my
and the
$7
Jerk.
million,
It
from
was
my
like-
$7 million home, that's all that I had preserved somehow.
But
It meant a great deal to me. And then when I went to Nash House, somehow my shit got packed away from Nash House into the storage because I went to court and then I didn't have to come back. Well, anyway, he said, if you don't come get your stuff tonight, they're going to move it into the storage. I said, well, Dan, will you move it? And he said, yes. And he broke the boat. So I went to get it a couple days later, and I packed it all up, and we went back to my loft. And I went, where's my stereo, Dan?
Stereo, I knew. It was his
There
most
was no
prized
stereo there,
possession.
Tom.
It was
He said,
like
there was no stereo there. I said, Dan, there was a fucking Bose stereo. Are you crazy?
$1,000 stereo. You're walking around
My
homeless
stereo
with a
was the first
$1,000 stereo.
And then 2 years later, he wrote me a Christmas card, and he said, PSS, Tom, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're right. There was a stereo there, and I dropped it, and it broke, and I'm very sorry. I hope you'll forgive me.
An amends.
Of
There it
sorts.
is,
Of
an
course.
amends
I'm
letter.
still in touch with him, yeah.
Let's be fair.
What?
A real amends, he would have bought him a new stereo.
Yeah.
You know,
That's right.
Or not dropped another person's stereo and lied about it.
here it is. So
I
here we
remember that
are.
Bose
It's
stereo. You do remember that Bose stereo? That's the first nice thing I bought, like in 1989.
like $1,000.
Yeah,
Just remember the other thing. Remember
it was
when
like $1 million to me.
we came to visit him at his house, and he was in that room. We both
Yeah,
had a
remember
fantasy.
when Drew and I came to the house and you had the punching bag out on the patio?
I vaguely remember that.
You got pretty crazy, Tom Sizemore.
Oh, no. I got really crazy. I think it's pretty crazy. I know now.
What about the story about?
I was up there with no shirt. Listen, I vaguely remember Monroe told me that you alarmed them, and I said, how? Why? She went, well, it's alarming when you see someone like yourself with no clothes, no shirt on, with a baseball bat, periodically hitting a heavy bag, and
sweating.
You're talking about the guns that you have in your bedroom, and you're profusely sweating and claiming you're not getting high.
Well, and then it got worse.
And you're saying you're sober. That was the best part.
That alarmed. She said it alarmed. It even alarmed. She called you. What'd she call you again, Bob? She called you Country. Because of the hat and the red hair. It even alarmed Mr. Country.
But Tom, it
Country.
got there was a one click worse, which was we followed you into the bedroom because you kept locking yourself in the bathroom, and you just start bellowing from in there.
Oh! You started making this wild noise.
Yeah,
You
like
did.
and Bob and I,
Anything you want now.
You did.
It's true. Because listen, Bob and I walked in the bedroom, and that started happening, and we
What was I
both
bellowing again?
hang on, without looking at each other, we both started backing out,
Yeah.
like oh my god, and we ran out of the house.
I have no recollection. I can't recall.
I think you know that sound you make when you do a big
Bob,
long
remember I
rail.
jumped out of a
I think that
moving
was
vehicle. Bob, I jumped out of a moving vehicle.
To go to the pink dot.
That's indisputable. That's on film.
it. Big dot.
So wait, was
do you
this the
mean?
one you were filming in New York City? Is this the one you're talking about? You're in Manhattan, and I'm blanking the name on
Robert De Niro.
De Niro. Yeah, De Niro cornered you in your trailer, and he was going to take you to treatment at the end of the day, and you dove in a car and drove off. Do you remember this
That's
story?
all true. That's all true.
Do you remember this? Did he tell you this story when you were in the
The
book?
story that I remember was the one about, I think, shooting
Mike.
Heat, and it all happened in L.A. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
it happened in L.A.
And
We were on the set. This is what happened. The last day of I had agreed 2 days prior. My psychiatrist was Dr. David Scott May, and I went to my session. And when I went to my session, he said, "Excuse me, Tom. I have to do something very quickly." And he left his office, and he walked back in with Bob De Niro, my mother, my brother, and that was it. And then we all talked. It was kind of shocking, but we made an agreement that I was going to wrap the movie in 3 or 4 days, and that I agreed then to go to Sierra Tucson Treatment Center.
Oh, nice treatment center. Nice.
So that was the agreement. So the day came to, like 3 days later, I was doing my last day of work, which wasn't, oddly enough, when I was shot by Pacino. And I had this thing on my head that was where the bullet went in, the thing they build they build a forehead that they can do a squib out of. So we did it, and we got it. So Bob said, go to makeup and get that off. De Niro wasn't working. He came there to take me. And on the way to makeup, I had told my assistant at the time, Glenn, to pull my Mustang over to just idle right here. And on the way to makeup, I'm walking with Michael Waxman, the first AD, and I said, Michael, I'm going to go. And he said, no, you're not going anywhere, man. We're going over here. And I went, really? And I just said, boom. I just took off running, and I ran, and I dove. I had to dive, like, I don't know, maybe 7 feet. And I ended up hit the top down, thankfully. I dove into the back seat. And I was John Dillinger, I thought. And I drove to the Lowe's Hotel. And I checked in there, and then I thought that was too obvious a place. And then I went to Shutters. And I was in Shutters, and then they found me.
They
found me a couple days later.
That's
and
what you call
had to go.
not ready for treatment. Not ready yet.
No, not ready. I wasn't really ready yet.
But God bless De Niro for trying. I mean, he had all the right ideas.
When I opened the door up, and I had ordered some food, right? And then they knocked on the door, and I opened the door up, and it was him. I closed it, and I locked the door.
if only it had been like 15 years later. His
I went in the
timing was
bathroom.
off.
I went in the bathroom and
was
I called him and said.
But that
I
wasn't
said,
even meth, right? That was heroin and coke back then?
Oh, stop it, Bob. You're going to make me sound like a complete dope fiend. That was heroin and coke. That was heroin and coke.
I told you.
And I actually got sober then. And I stayed sober from 95 to 97. I relapsed and I got clean again. Even in 2000, Bob, there was a lot of ignorance, like with me, for instance, and Heidi, about how dangerous these drugs were. You know,
that's true.
I don't think I didn't appreciate how dangerous they were until much later, like in 2009.
And then when you're into it, you don't want to hear it either. You know, you can't hear it.
I mean, I had fun for a while, and then I, of course, didn't have any fun. And then after I was completely fucked up from it, and I tried to stop on my own, and it was hopeless. I couldn't stop.
Each drug has its own negative kind of connotations, but when you survive or you sort of make it past heroin, and you're kind of functioning still in your 30s, you start to think all other drugs aren't like that. And each one of them has their own destructive things. Alcohol and pot being the new ones. Yeah. There's a lot of people that turn away from heroin and then get on alcohol and pot and think it's harmless or nothing.
Or get on just other opiates.
Or how about benzos, blah, blah, blah. Doctors give them stuff. But Tom, I'm just speaking of doctors giving stuff. I'm just flashing on when we first got you over.
You were on 11 meds when we first dealt with you. I think you were on 11
and
meds.
And we found balloons of heroin stashed.
Regular psych meds too, though.
Yeah, I know.
From the doctor.
Yeah. But when we at PRC, when we got you to Pasadena Recovery Center first time.
Oh, I had like $2,000 of drugs on my ankle.
Yeah, and some of them ended up in trash cans and all over the place.
Oh, that was on the show.
Yeah, but here's what I remember.
Well, Drew, you crossed me up with that Ativan shot. You gave me that Ativan shot, and I was trying to hide my drugs in the bathroom.
I gave him enough to put down a large elephant because I had to get him to stop. And I was like, Tom, come here. And boom.
It wasn't very nice of you, Drew.
And he was pushing through it. Me. You kept pushing through it.
Because of the meth?
I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. I was like, this man should be unconscious. I got to get him to stop.
He couldn't knock me. He could not knock me down. He tried to knock me down.
And remember, he kept wanting to leave the ground.
Stupering around. Yeah.
Oh my God! I thought he was going to bolt. This is terrible. He needs to land, and he was psychotic, and it was just, oh my God!
It was terrible. I'm so glad that fucking bullshit's over with.
Yeah.
Well, the next morning when I woke up, like not the next morning, 4 days later, I went to that bathroom, and all the drugs were gone. So I went to Shelly. Yeah.
Shelly.
Oh,
Shelly. I think I went to Shelly. Yeah.
I left some things in the bathroom, and she said, "Your heroin and speed." No, it's gone.
Yes, I remember.
And I said, "Well, that wasn't anyone's to throw out. It was mine." So someone
You
stole
bought
it
that.
from me.
You bought that.
Considering they take away mouthwash in rehab.
I'm getting anxiety just having this conversation. I gotta
PTSD?
tell you.
Well, Drew, do you know what one of the turning points though was? Like I was like at day 6 or 7. You came into my room and you said, "Tom, I know you're not feeling well, obviously, but you're gonna have to get up eventually and take a shower, and more importantly, come to group. So why don't we do that today?" And I looked at you, and I know how kind of a person you are, really, Drew. And you said you can do it. And I did it. And then that was really, truly the first time I did something I didn't want to do.
That's good. I think you told me to fuck off, but in a good nature.
No,
way.
I never told you. I never said fuck off to you, Drew. Never.
That's right. You're right.
I said fuck off to everybody else on earth, but
you're right. It's true. It's true. I don't remember anything like that coming from you. So I appreciate that.
Never. I treated you always with absolute respect.
Yeah. Speaking of respect, how's your mom? How's Judy?
Oh, she's good. Everybody's good now I'm sober.
Oh, then she must.
Okay, let's get back to. We're back to the fact checking.
What's that?
Everything now is true. We're gonna stick
to
the facts.
I'm not all fucked up and shit.
Okay, now this is where the diagnosis gets hard with you. You are such a great actor, Thomas. You are such a great actor that I've always thought sometimes you don't know whether it's real life or acting.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Do you know when you're acting?
Well, I'm acting like right now that you didn't ask me such a stupid question. Yeah, I know the difference, Bob.
Not like crazy mentally ill, but you really don't think you confuse what real life is and what what?
No, I think you're what you're messing.
I think if I confuse,
Here,
no,
you
I don't.
ask the question.
I think what happens
I don't
is
confuse.
No, I think, Tom, what happens
it.
when you're really not well, you start lying so much that you can't tell what the hell's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that's what starts
true.
happening.
And then it all becomes
he may use acting to sustain his lies, but you don't. As a sober person watching it, it's like, what's going on, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How do you be such a good actor?
Like that,
How do you get
start
what?
fabricating things? They just all kind of get on top of you. You have to keep lying to lie.
So here's the thing: there are actors, there's a lot of actors, but there's only a few masters, and I think it's what makes an actor? What makes a great actor? Because you are a great actor.
Is it all God given with hard work, or are there ways to get there?
Because I think it's because I think it's a byproduct of how fucked up you are. I think that.
What?
I think how. What? I think how tortured you are is a part of why you're such a great actor. That you can access that deep.
Unfortunately, I think with me, I think it's all individual. With me, I think that's unfortunately true.
Well, but why would you say unfortunately? It's had an unfortunate history, but you're turning it into a gift.
Yeah. Well, I think that I know I did this. I think the drugs I thought made me more interesting and made my emotions more accessible to me. When in point of fact they didn't, but I thought that they did, and they ended up torturing me. And I thought it made me more interesting. I don't know why. I think that great actors are. I think you have to be born with some kind of quality of, I don't know what it is, that you want to be an actor. Number one, but I don't think you can make a. I don't think you can be a great actor. I just don't think you can be a great actor unless you have some type of gift from the beginning, and of course a desire to be one too. I mean, but
my idea is
like Robert Downey Jr. is like one of the most gifted people I've ever met, and I know other actors that are good actors, but they don't have the gifts that like Robert has, or certain actors that I worked with coming up that they just seem to be just gifted, you know.
But it does seem like
trauma. But my thing is about trauma. When you look at the greatest trauma, the greatest musicians, songwriters in the world are traumatized people. John Lennon, Kurt Cobain. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
People that lived through the world. All the Rolling Stones and Beatles lived while bombs were dropping off when they were children. All over England. Yeah. Trauma has something to do with expression that has something to do with art. And you are a deep, deep trauma survivor, and you are a deep, deep actor, Tom Sizemore.
Oh, thank you.
It's good to talk to you, good to see you, and I love you, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Tom.
We're done?
Yeah, we're done, man. We'll see you
all
soon.
Right, guys.
All right, Tom,
thanks. I love all you. I love all you. A whole lot.
Miss you.
Happy holidays. Okay.
All right. Happy holidays.
You live.
And our other guest is Mackenzie Phillips. That's her laughter in the background there. You can follow, see her one day at a time on Netflix. BreatheLifeHealingCenters.com is where she wants you to check it out.
The history of opioids in America, Mackenzie Phillips.
You can follow her at Mac Phillips. So, Mac, bring us up to date. People who haven't been with you the way we all have been the last couple of years. Tell people where you've been and what's been going on.
Well, what can I say? I've been working. I went back to school. And I became a counselor, and I've been working as a primary counselor for the last 3 years.
It's been awesome.
It's been incredible. I'm so grateful to them for inspiring me to follow my passion.
And the first thing I noticed with Mac, I haven't seen you really quietly. We've seen a conference and things we have to speak and stuff. Yeah. But how great does she look? Yeah, how healthy does she look?
Health, and she doesn't come at you the way she used to.
Well, my God.
She come at you with all kinds of agendas.
Oh, those were the days, huh?
Yeah, and remember when we took the walk around at Celebrity Rehab and we went around the block and I said, "Don't do this book thing, don't do it." Yeah. And you were like, "I have to do it." She'd already
done it.
That person is not around anymore.
And you know what? It turned out to be not a bad decision to do the book.
I know, but you got crucified, and I felt like beating some people up. I was in favor of it. I felt like beating some people up. I feel like my little sister out. You know what I mean?
Crack them over the head.
That was a rough week for you when that book came out.
That was tough. I mean, I seriously had. I guess I was kind of naive, and I thought, well, the people who love me will love me, regardless of whether or not I speak my truth. And boy, was I wrong. They'll love me from, way over there, maybe.
Trust everyone, trust no one.
My idealism and my altruism has gotten me in more sticky wickets than you can possibly imagine.
We call that codependency.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
well,
very
that
familiar
too.
with that territory.
I'd rather call it idealism and altruism.
But
here's
listen,
how
that's why.
phony-
By the hold on,
Yeah.
codependency is not a strictly negative thing. It directs you towards altruism, which I always value.
Right.
So it's a liability that comes with a strength.
There
That's
you
all.
go.
Yeah,
Okay. Spoken by Dr. Drew.
so there you go.
But what was funny is the way the wind blew about the subject of the book. Show business is so phony, half the people that were kind of not unkind to you would have been kind to you if there was like this warm, all the things that you thought were going to happen.
Exactly.
That's what I
do you
hate
mean?
about
What do you mean?
Hollywood.
No, what do you mean? I don't understand
So
what you mean.
that
she'll
if
explain it.
the reaction of the family had been what I had expected it to be, everyone
embrace.
would have been really nice about it.
Yeah.
Across the board. And I had people say to me, "Well, why did you wait till he was dead?" And if I had written it when he was alive, they would have said, "Why didn't you wait until he?"
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean?
See that?
You can't.
I don't think you can win. I don't
No,
think
there
you
was
can
no
stuff
win
like
with that.
But
No.
people,
But it was courageous and it was brave, and it goes on a lot more in America than people ever want to talk about.
Drew was my champion.
hell yeah.
You were so helpful and so inspirational to me.
I still have. I don't know where I was. I was literally out in the world when I saw you talking to Oprah. And I was like, oh, shit, here it goes.
That was so scary.
Oh, my God. I'm like, oh, crap. I just froze in the spot. I just remember it. But you looked
My hands were shaking.
No, but, Mac, you looked so connected and so... and when people started questioning the veracity and stuff, like, come on, everybody just watch what Mac is saying.
I
It's
remember
a common thing.
they had like a lie to me person, like a person who reads body language on ET or Access Hollywood or something.
No.
And they were like, well, all we can say is, she believes that it's true. That's all they could say.
Well, good. That's all we need to say.
Does America not know, Drew, what we know?
About how much sexual
abuse there is.
No.
I think they when it comes to close family, they recoil. I think people understand that it happens with strangers and neighbors and teachers and doctors and blah, 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 blah. But when it's immediate family...
It's always immediate family.
No, it isn't always. It's often teachers and stuff like that. But when it's immediate family, that's when people go, ugh. And I hear about it on radio all the time.
I'm sure you do, all the time.
Every night.
And
Well, where I hear it the most is stepfathers and teenage daughters and stuff like that.
Are you
That's
okay
where I
talking about
hear-
this, by the way?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
did not expect us to go down this path.
What?
nor did I, but that's
No,
fine.
it's a courage that
Yeah.
she had that no other American has.
No, I think she blew it up. I feel like we're talking about it now. We were beginning to, and Max just... poof.
Well, what happened after High on Arrival came out was that a lot of people went, oh, me too.
Oh, yeah.
And then another person would, put their hand and go, oh, me too. Like,
Well,
a lot of people started...
I would argue that before you did that, at first I'd have to extract it from people.
Yes.
No one would come forward with it. And when they would come forward, it was very shame-based stuff, which of course it's a shaming experience. But now they're much more, I wouldn't say matter of fact, but apt to be understanding that it's not something that only happened to them or that it was their responsibility.
Absolutely. I mean, I have so many clients sitting, come to my office, young heroin addict, addicted women who, it's like extracting the truth from them. And the shame and the fear and the belief that because you didn't scream and yell or run or tell or, pull out a stick that you're complicit.
Well, that's
or
the
that
part,
you're responsible.
and I think that's the part, Bob, that people really had trouble getting their head around with Mac, which is sort of Stockholm syndrome she got into.
Yeah.
People cannot get that. They don't understand it unless they've been there.
That's right. That's right. And, being a counselor now and being, a hopeful healer, I like to say, and having gone through this experience, quite literally and then in the public eye, it gives me sort of a unique perspective on how to talk to young women about this trauma.
How would you describe that? Because that fascinates me.
Well, I can actually, an appropriate disclosure is always very interesting when you're working as a counselor or
it's when to disclose is an art.
When to disclose is a real art. So, to say, I have some of this in my history as well, and I can tell you for me, when I finally came to terms with the fact that I was medicating my trauma with heroin and cocaine or whatever, that as I started to let go of my coping mechanism, and I started to like really feel the deep trauma of what had happened in my life, I needed someone to be there for me and someone who was just going to listen. And I'd like to be that person for you.
Very
There you
powerful.
go.
Very powerful.
And
being that person, by the way, I would argue that to the extent that you take care of yourself and not get evoked, being on the other side can be very healing too. It's another phase of your healing.
That's what I think
Absolutely.
happened, which is the event of the book. Immediately, Max started working in treatment.
Yeah, it's
laying low.
Yeah,
healing yourself, learning your craft, and now she's popping out the other side, and now it's all, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what I
she
feel
is.
like. If if the book hadn't happened, I don't think you'd be a counselor.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know
what I mean?
I don't think I would either. I mean, I started going to school for KDAC certification in 2003.
I know.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know. You were not ready.
I was not.
By the way.
Apparently, I was so not ready.
She was a periodic at that time.
Actually, absolutely.
But you know what? I see that now in retrospect as all part of the arc of your healing. That's
Yes.
really what it is. That was okay that you did that because you were in that phase of you were moving towards it.
I was
Well,
moving
you got
towards
the units
Yeah.
for later on.
You know what? I let him go.
You did?
I let him go and started all over.
Where did you go?
Smart.
UCLA or where?
No, I went to a hybrid program at Sober College called ICDS. It's a certification.
yeah.
You know, it's a really quick.
Oh, that Sober College place. Even though I love what they do, you live out near there, right?
I don't. I live in Sherman Oaks. They're in Woodland Hills.
I know, but
That's-
yeah,
that's
okay.
out there.
818.
It's a valley
yes,
to
yes.
us,
Deep
Matt.
818.
Deep 818.
See, that's a valley girl
I know.
who knows that. You know, it's
Yeah.
that's 8 miles west.
Exactly.
To me,
And
it's
I-
all like out there.
Never the twain shall meet. I remember once I was dating a guy, or I was about to date a guy, and I met him at a meeting. You guys know him. I won't say his name on here, but I was like, "Oh, here's my number. Call me." And he goes, "Oh,
818.
818." And I said, "Well, it's Tarzan." And he goes, "Oh, deep 818." I'm like, "Fine, whatever." I still went to bed with him. What can I say?
But
Why
the
not?
Sober College, have you ever been out there?
No.
It's out past Encino. Yeah,
I've heard
I
about it.
don't-
Yeah, it's like
but-
Woodland Hills. Like, yeah.
But it's inspiring and it's depressing
oh,
because that population, they have a wall of all the dead kids. It's just so depressing. And the first time I was there, it was at a memorial for a friend of mine's daughter, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I don't think I could do this."
They're doing great work.
well,
Yeah,
no, what do
they
you mean?
are.
What do you can't do it. You do it all the time.
No, but it's just dealing with the, well, no, what a treatment center does. I'm dealing with the semi-surrendered. You know what I mean?
New category.
I still, by the way, one of the greatest recovery stories for me is Mac going to that place that the nun ran, your first sobriety.
Oh, she wasn't a nun, but
Or whatever.
Mrs. Delaney.
She'd been a nun or something, right?
Well, no,
I
she
thought she'd
wasn't a
been a
nun.
nun.
No, she was like Marty Mann. She was one of those type of women in the early
But she
days.
walked through a doorway that said, it had an inscription over it that said, let me see if I get this right, for the reluctant to recover. Right?
Yes.
Right? I thought, oh my God, that's the best.
And then I walked further into the room, and there were signs that said, let go and let God. Think was upside down. And then there was one that said, one day at a time. And I went, oh, they knew I was coming. Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you want to do? Want to read an email?
So I want to read the thing about the heroin. Please help. My friend over, and this is
First name
Lily,
only. First name.
Lily L. And it says, please.
Again, we can't. Unfortunately, the way the laws are, we can't specifically address her thing. So kind of
Yeah, no, I
distill
mean,
it down.
generally,
Distill it down.
because, right, Drew, listen to the letter. At the end, it says it's a matter of life or death. Do you think I want to be held accountable for this?
It's not about being held accountable. It's about what's legally appropriate and ethically
Please
appropriate
help.
for us.
My friend of over 30 years is an alcoholic. Her husband is alcoholic. Her two boys, 25 and 24,
All right, so what's the question?
are both addicted to heroin.
Oh,
Her
jeez.
nephew just passed away from an overdose. His brother just left another rehab with, AMA. It's a nightmare. She refused to get help because she doesn't think she needs it. Still
Who
in
is that?
denial.
The
This
mom?
is her friend. Yeah, the mom of
okay,
all this.
so, and mom's the alcoholic, right?
Yeah, mom's.
Okay, so what do you do with it? Let's go to back up. There's
Well, there's something. Why? When I read the letter, I thought of my family. There's a lot of alcoholism in my family, but I was a heroin addict,
You
and
were
that
cool.
was really bad. So what I see is the mom is thinking, yeah, I drink or I have a drinking problem, but these boys
are real addicts.
Yeah, these are the real problem.
Well, I'm afraid, Bob. I'm afraid generally in this country we've forgotten about alcohol. You know what I mean?
I agree.
We have so much trouble with pills and everything else that alcohol's like, okay, we can deal with that.
Go have a drink.
Let them go for a little while. It's all right.
And it's sad.
We've forgotten how dangerous, how it progresses, how it goes on. Across a lifespan. It
manifests in the next generation in heroin addiction.
That's
right. No.
Well, it can.
Not
that's
necessarily.
what this is. That's what happened in my family.
Yeah, but
because
you had a sister mom.
Yes, you did.
That's how that happened.
But if you're looking
that's why Mac and I could get along so good. So one time, I never told you this. I asked her if it was my dad who raised me, my grandfather. And she said, "How dare you, Bobby?" And she slapped my face. What does that mean?
Ooh.
Wow.
Holy moly. Let's not get into it further than that.
Wow.
Wow.
How dare
from
you.
Mackenzie Phillips.
So, Bob, let me understand. So why are you antisocial? Why are you antisocial?
Right,
Well,
exactly.
What creates that?
Yeah.
But alcohol is, a very, very serious problem. It can have massive, but you are not on the kind of a clock that you are with heroin, where your life is like imminently in danger.
But with
People
the
can
genetic
skate along.
manifestation, right? So you have parents that are alcoholic.
Right, that's the gene.
That's the gene,
Yeah.
but it can manifest in heroin because that's what's in front of them.
Well,
Yeah,
I would
that's
argue. Hold on, I would argue. And this is what I was going to say when you said, "Well, the mom has to." No, the dad's probably a raging perpetrator of God knows what. Mom is a severe codependent and not really available emotionally. And then they're both drunk. They're both when they're using
Battling.
who knows what they're like, and that's traumatic. And so then you get heroin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it. So, but the thing that's interesting to me is alcoholism.
And by
still
the way,
the number one destroyer in America.
with cigarettes, yes.
Yes.
Number one, number two.
But cause all the violence, domestic
Yes.
violence,
Car accidents.
It's some heroin addicts, some meth addicts, but alcoholism number one at domestic violence, right?
Absolutely.
Number one with car accidents.
Well, maybe meth is number one domestic violence.
With domestic violence, you would say?
Meth is pretty bad with domestic. But
But
anyway,
it's such a small percentage of the population is abusing that drug.
Yes, point is well
I think
taken.
that population is growing.
The meth group?
Absolutely.
It waxes and wanes.
I'm
It
seeing a
waxes and
lot of.
wanes. I know it's
But
back.
what the
I know.
letter describes kind of is this chaotic alcoholic couple, probably my age,
yeah.
that have these heroin addict
Yeah.
kids. And I know that mother is putting aside her problems
Yes.
to focus melodramatically
Well,
on the boys.
I would argue that not only
Histrionically melodramatic.
I would argue that she uses that justification for not dealing with her stuff.
Well, wouldn't you need a cocktail now and again
Right?
if
How
you
am I
had two heroin
right?
addict
How am I
sons?
supposed to deal with this? It makes right.
I hate to trivialize it, but
Well,
you really
it's-
would
yeah.
need. And what do you need, Drew? You need people, and you need love, and you need support. But alcohol is what's in the refrigerator that seems to do a version of that, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's the chaos that's going on in America. Everybody thinks it's a small percentage. It's a huge swath
my God.
across America.
And it really, when I look at it, it's like we got to do something about our families, man. We got to.
But I just want to say, when we're talking dysfunctional families, we're talking about Mac and Bob's families.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, I mean.
Well, we turned out all right.
Well, that's what I was going to
A lot
say.
of compassion. I've always had a lot of compassion.
You walk through it. You got through it, but it's extraordinary.
Well, and the thing is that I love about that, Bob, is that we're not hoarding our wellness to ourselves. We're actually trying to share it with other people.
And both of you got into a place
enriches it.
where you aren't. When you really get over trauma, you start accepting what is sick in the other person that was the perpetrator, or all the stuff that was going on there. You do actually have empathy for them. You still have all the other anger and hatred and misery and whatever else they did to you, but you have some empathy, and that's a tall order. So you have an understanding.
I'm so sorry.
Once you stop being a victim, you kind of have to have compassion.
Well,
and you start to understand it. Like, I was definitely a victim running around, but once I got kind of on the other side of it, I could see, like, everybody's fucked up in one way or another, and everybody, and it just keeps going on and on.
You just had a very
But
big
here's how
dose.
that anger manifests before you get to this kind of place. It's like, oh, F you. Watch me now. I'll kill me.
Yeah.
I will burn it down to punish you
Yeah.
for what you did to me.
It's a weird acting out, isn't it?
It's a weird acting out. And then when it
And
shifts.
if I'm dying, will you come rescue me?
And
Exactly.
It shifts.
Well, when it shifts, you recognize it as, wow, I was seriously punishing myself in order to get back at someone who didn't give a shit.
Before we wrap this up, did you have some sort of shift sitting in the chair talking to Oprah?
I was so scared of her.
But I feel like something
She's a
happened to
vicious
that child.
monster, in my opinion. So I'm like,
Well, she helped Mac. That's all I care about.
She did help me. My shift came with EMDR.
It's an eye movement therapy. People who know EMDR. Look up EMDR. It's excellent trauma therapy.
I didn't do it with the eyes. I did it with the little zzz
Or whatever,
things.
yeah.
However you do
It's some sort of... It's accessing deeper brain systems that you can't
systems.
get at by yourself or even by sort of traditional psychotherapy
And
means.
it kind of makes the trauma live in a different place in your limbic system.
Yep.
And so that it's not constantly being re-stimulated.
Let me say it.
You say it the way.
The trauma lives in your body, in your autonomic system. It's like you're being re-traumatized all the time. It's sort of a weird memory that we have that remains in our body. And as such, it's cut off from our more conscious processes, even our emotional processes sometimes. It's so deeply bodily based. And what EMDR and other trauma therapies allow you to do is to access it. So it becomes part of a whole of who you are.
So integrate.
It integrates.
I didn't do EMDR, but that's what it is. It is a part of the whole of who I am.
Yeah. And as such...
I'm not scared of it.
Well, and as such, you can use your mature, healthy parts of yourself to regulate and talk to those other parts, and as opposed to be walled off from it.
Right.
And so you start to become an integrated whole. Literally, the wiring of your brain changes. You wire into that part of the brain.
You know what I've noticed, and I'm not bragging, but I had this weird business offer last week, and I didn't even have that junky response like, oh, I could do this, and then all the corrective shit like, no, you couldn't, Bob. I didn't even have it. I was like, oh, I wouldn't want to be involved in something like that.
Yeah, that's good.
That's amazing. Isn't that right?
Peace out, baby.
Peace out.
With that, we will say goodbye. Max, such a privilege. Always
love you guys
yeah, we
so
love
much.
You too. I'm just so happy for you, and just see you looking so great.
We didn't even mention she won the Sober Person of the Year award the other day.
Really?
And I was there. I got to give the prayer.
You did. It was the Experience, Strength, and Hope Award. He was
I
amazing.
did the opening prayer. Like, I don't know what kind of prayer it was. It was mostly like, let's get it together, people.
Three of us are going to finish up here. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we are happy to welcome...
I'm getting distracted by your wife.
Well, first of all, Shelly is with us still.
Hi, guys.
Shelly Sprague is still with us, and we are all delighted to bring our friend Mary Ellen Cook in here.
Yes.
Who reminded me that it's been 10 years
know.
to the day since Celebrity Rehab started.
What?
I know, right?
We're old.
Well,
I'm going on
Really?
Seems like it was just a couple years
really
ago.
old.
I'm still feeling the effects of it.
I know. I was 27 then. Now I'm 37.
and you're going to get married. We'll talk about all this.
Yes.
Yes.
But I one of the moments that, Marilyn, you did not see that stuck out in my mind was when you started. We had to walk down the street a few times.
Yes.
Poor Shelly. I felt so bad for her. You guys were driving her crazy.
Yes, we did. Well, I was really well behaved. It was more like Jessica and Seth, I think, and Jeff, obviously.
Jeff always.
Yeah, definitely.
Jeff was the toughest one.
Well, I mean, I think the whole environment was a little bit different, something
Yes.
I wasn't really used to.
Yes.
And so what I had, had to kind of adjust to was things that were kind of beyond my control. And so I had a bit of trouble adjusting to the whole situation, not because the clients were who they were and what you guys were, up to, but more because of the context of what we're doing within that construct. And so it was tough for my little brain, to make it,
But you
make
all
it all
weren't
make
getting
sense.
kicked out.
Right.
You know what I think is funny is that when I went to Promises Malibu, the first or second day I was there, the girl I was really close with, she goes, I watched Celebrity Rehab. She goes, I've been here for a week. There's no drama in rehab. You guys must have made that all up. Well, then as the weeks progressed, there was a lot of drama.
Drama.
It's like a little high school when you're in rehab,
It is, yes.
It wasn't just Celebrity
Absolutely.
Rehab.
No,
All
no,
rehabs
all rehabs.
are pretty much, I thought Celebrity Rehab, now after going to other rehabs, was actually a very accurate portrayal of rehab. It was
That's right.
nothing, if
No
anything,
doubt.
we got better treatment on Celebrity Rehab than a normal rehab because we had a smaller group. We got one-on-one time more with you, with Bob. So, I felt it was actually a better rehab situation.
It was just what the three of us do. There's the three of us, and plus some other people, Sasha and people in the team.
Yeah,
and
day
Luisha
in and day out, that's what we're doing, and it was a good it was a good introduction for you, because obviously now later you see that you were really getting treatment and you were actually making some progress there.
Oh, I think. I get really upset when people criticize it and think it was made up for TV or this wasn't real treatment, because because that's the other thing, people don't realize we had 2 to 3 hour long process groups that were seeing you one-on-one almost every day.
It was heavy duty.
It was heavy duty.
It was real rehab.
That's sort of what was depleting us, in fact, because usually you'll hand off, but it was just the three of us all the time.
I know.
Really.
I want to go back again. Let's do it again.
I think.
Well, the other thing is you responded to it because you'd never had a family feel like that.
Yeah.
That was I thought, a poignant piece of your story, is that we became like a little surrogate family for you.
Oh, yeah. And when I went to PTP, Promises, other program, they let me stay an extra couple of days for free because I just didn't want to leave. I just wanted to stay in rehab. And I told them if I win the lottery, I'm going to live in rehab permanently.
You went to on Pico?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was on Wilshire. But now they closed it, actually.
Yeah, I think they did. So
we always
what
liked that
she
program.
went through.
Yeah.
No, so it was
that
the
Paul
professionals.
Williams over there? Was that
Dr. Greg Skipper. Dr. Skipper.
the gray guy. So they were doing tours because it was going to be the professionals track of Promises, right?
Yeah.
And Sheila Balkin and I go by there and we go through the tour and he's telling us all what you guys were going to do.
Oh, it was great.
And we just both looked at each other and said, "You're talking about this is just treatment."
It's treatment.
And he was like, yeah, isn't it weird you have to come up with a new brand for treatment, because treatment had become so accommodating, such BS that they were just calling the professionals track, calling it a separate new thing, like it's a new thing. And it was really go to group or go home. Right? That's what.
And theirs is actually a lot stricter because it's a lot of. I don't know how I ended up in there. Actually, Dr. Sophie wanted me in the professionals program to bring me back to more of my roots and like the kind of prep school I went to. He wanted me to be with the doctors and lawyers, but it was pretty much all doctors and physicians who got in some sort of trouble at work.
Yeah.
And so they have to do everything right, or else Dr. Skipper doesn't approve them to go back to work. And they're all required.
And there's the board.
Well, there is no. I don't like the rules. I'm going to leave. I mean, for these doctors, it's lose your license if you don't stay.
We dealt with a lot of doctors, if you remember, and they were really tough to treat.
They're very tough. I mean, the guy I'm engaged to, he's very tough to treat.
We'll hear more about that as we go on. But
he was in rehab for 6 months. But he's a great guy.
That's what it takes.
See, I realize when I say these things, he's not.
Just like everybody's not newbie. Everybody's not newbie. But you guys haven't seen each other since
10 years.
Gosh, the reunion.
You came back, though.
I did I came back before Sober House and just came back and visited season 2. And then I did Sober House season 1, which we shot a year after, but Shelly wasn't part of Sober House.
Right.
Yeah. We only got to see you and Bob.
She didn't want to live with you guys.
I love Sober House. That's another thing. Unlike real sober livings, you don't generally get. We were getting process groups every day.
Yeah.
In Sober House, it was really just like rehab living in a different place.
Right. It was like treatment light.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I love treatment.
It was so funny when we were the
I
producers.
should go back. I don't even remember any of this. It was so long ago.
But the producers, we were always like, no, just don't worry about it. Stuff always happens every half. Just stand back, let it happen. It always does. I still have trauma from going to Catalina. That was like
that
too
was
much
so
for
fun.
me.
See, the producers were the ones who told me to take my top off.
I'm sure.
I was not going to do it. I said to them, Dr. Drew's going to get mad if I do this.
See, TV
And they said,
producers
do
always
it.
have to do the obvious. So TV producers, my argument wasn't the same as yours. I was like, if you don't tell her to take her top off, she will. You don't have to worry about it. And what's his name jumped off the boat. I knew that somebody was going to jump off the boat.
Rico. Of course,
I knew it.
Rico.
I knew somebody's going to steal one of those bicycles and take off on Catalina. You just let drug addicts be drug addicts. But the producers were so trying to make them act like drug addicts. I think that drove you nuts. I was just like, you don't have to tell them. You don't have to tell them.
It's true.
You would have taken your top off even if they didn't tell you, wouldn't you?
No, because I wouldn't want Dr. Drew to be mad at me.
Thank you.
Because
No, I really didn't.
I know you were a good patient.
Yeah,
because it would have gotten her kicked out of the program.
and that's the thing
Right?
In the real world, that was the
It would
only
have
thing.
been,
That was the
yeah.
only thing different is that I wasn't allowed to kick people out.
Yeah, you
which
weren't
I
able to.
routinely
We never
did.
kick people out. We just move them to the psych ward, if you recall.
We would give them options. We'd give them options.
Yes.
They would often go to that ward. That was what they would
Two
go.
East, it was called.
Right. Yes, I remember.
So what's going on in your life now? So first, your sobriety.
Okay, so I was dreading coming here. So I had 416 days sober, and then it's funny. I mean, I see now how the relapse happened. Once I got sober, I went out to Vegas. I was starting to get booked every single weekend again. I slowly stopped going to all my meetings because I was traveling every single weekend. I stopped going. Every Wednesday was my promises meeting. I was always going to that. Started missing it. The young boyfriend and I broke up, and I ended up, drinking. It was a one night. It was on November 18th. And then I got sober. I did it again and got really actively involved with promises again. And then I caught my fiance at the time was my boyfriend that he had sex with a bunch of hookers behind my back.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh
Don't worry,
God.
he's in. Yeah. So
This
then
is a different guy?
No, this is the guy I'm engaged to now.
What?
Well, it's a sex addiction. I can overlook it.
Is he in treatment?
Yeah, he's in treatment
All
right
right,
now.
okay.
He's a blue tiger.
Okay.
So, but then that made me drink
They
again.
have a sex
It
addiction
didn't make me
thing
drink.
called
The problem
Blue
is,
Tiger?
yeah, it's in Palm Springs.
That kind of sounds sexy.
It does. Well,
That's how you get those guys in. That's how you get them in.
yeah, you have to con them to come in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, not that it made me drink. I can see what the trigger was. I just wasn't strong enough in that point in my sobriety when that happened. And then things were going well with us again. And then there was one other, January 6th, him and I had gotten in an argument, and I went and sat courtside at a Lakers game, and I decided to drink there. And so now my new sobriety date is January 7th. So I have 47
There
days.
you go.
Do you guys make much of a distinction between slips and relapses with your dealing with patients?
I do, because part of slipping is part of reintegration of, does this work? No, it doesn't. Does
Right.
this really work? No, it doesn't. And sometimes you have to go through whatever it takes to understand that it doesn't work, because there's nothing worse than wondering if alcohol still works for me.
Isn't it interesting?
It did not work. It was actually, like they say, your relapse is worse than it was before.
Yeah.
And the disease really does pick up
Right.
because, I mean, I only had 5 doubles the night, on November 10th. And
At a Lakers game?
No,
No.
this was the first.
That was later.
But I normally would not have been in a blackout after 2 drinks. And the behavior I did at this club I was at, I mean, was crazy. It was nothing like I've ever done before. And so it just shows that the alcohol affected me even worse,
It does. It really does, because of the way that it affects your brain when you haven't been drinking for quite some time,
Yeah.
or 400 and some days, right? And then you go and
416.
you have a couple of doubles,
Yeah.
and you go into a blackout.
But you seem much clearer about what you're contending with
with
alcoholism.
Oh, I mean,
like
I have no
you
doubt that I'm
get
an
it.
alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then I understand. I mean, I see. It's like when they say when your life starts getting too busy, or you start getting back all the things you were losing in your disease, which was happening for me. I mean, all the different clubs were, happy with me again. I was doing a great job. I was sober. I was getting booked for things. I stopped going to my meetings. I stopped hanging out with, my best friend, my sponsor. I just
Was she the one we met last time?
Yes,
Yeah.
she was actually going to come today, but
Yeah.
she's sick.
She seemed very solid. So
Yeah, she's actually just got 18 months.
Now, I think we talked a little bit about this last time, but isn't it interesting that a lot of your unraveling comes in around relationships?
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I realized what I was doing too in the last relationship was I was staying sober as a way to make him proud, but then also he had a horrible relapse, and I started becoming his caregiver. I mean, he wasn't really, he was just stayed drunk for months on end, and his parents were having me fly up to take care of him, to try to get him sober.
Boy.
He'd come stay with me. I'd find bottles constantly. I got afraid to leave my place because he was walking off and buying alcohol. And, and then once we split up, which I know was probably the best thing ever for me, if I would have listened to you and the people at Promises and my psychiatrist, I would have left him sooner. But I didn't listen to anyone.
Well,
And,
I told you to leave.
well, you just said it wasn't a good relationship.
Take care of you.
Yeah, we might have said I
Oh,
won't.
okay. You
tell
didn't
people-
say that.
Yeah, I
but
won't tell you to live your life, but I would say
I knew that you knew it wasn't good. And plus, I mean, if I would have listened to it, what is her name again? The psychic on
Khalees?
Khalees
Susan's
told me on Susan's show that when I kept saying over and over again, well, what about the guy I'm with now? And she's like, well, this is where it should be for now. But she would not. And I asked her over and over again. But then the guy that she told me about another guy. And that I was going to ignore for a couple months, and I wasn't going to be really interested in.
Is that this guy?
Yeah, and because I met him at a Promises picnic. He kept hitting on me. I blew him off completely. For months, I would see him at meetings, and he said I would ignore him when he said hi. I don't necessarily believe that. I'm just so social that I'm talking to a billion people that I probably, I had so many friends. And then he was very persistent, like she said he would be, with trying to ask me out. And then finally, after a couple months, I went out with him. And then she even told me that he was going to like fancy things. And she saw me having a good life with him. And that I would wonder how I ever lived without him. And it's all come true. But I still need to make sure this is the right guy. Because maybe there's another one that this is all going to happen with.
And
so I really need to go on this show again to confirm.
Does Mary
before
Carey,
July 7th, before I get married.
Mary Carey,
Mary Ellen.
the most... just you never give up on love.
No,
you never do.
No,
you're the most emotionally resilient. After time and time again, things going wrong, you just keep trying.
Well, I think I've said this before. You're
a love addict.
Love addict.
I am.
Yeah, I was thinking codependency, a little love
Yeah.
addiction.
Well, that's
there,
what I know. You hear what I hear, and so
Mm-hmm.
what should she do? With that?
Well, I'm
Coda
always,
meetings.
Well, but
go to meetings, but I really think that's looking at an interpersonal sort of structure of a relationship. Having a relationship with a therapist who's not codependent, so you can see what it's like to not get enmeshed with people, where you can see where you maintain your autonomy while you're in a relationship with someone, and you go alongside them in a parallel way and not in an enmeshed, overly obsessive kind of way.
Yeah, I definitely get obsessed.
And so when you get obsessed, it
Yeah.
clouds your judgment. And that's what obsession does. No matter what you're obsessed with, it's the exclusion of everything else. So like what you were saying was like, oh, well, this could happen with another person. I want to make sure this one's the right one. And it's like, you're right, because obsession can come in all kinds of different ways.
Yes.
And you won't know until all that obsession stuff settles down. And then you're really looking at, does the relationship work on all these different levels to make a partnership?
Yes.
And that partnership is what you're going to be looking for to move forward into a future sort of relationship too.
And he's been in a lot of treatment. He does what is the EDMR?
EMDR.
He's gone to Promises twice for 90 days. They sent him to the Blue Tiger place in Palm Springs.
Does he have a drug problem too?
You know what? He had been 7 years sober, and then he drank again. But it's mostly gambling, and the prostitutes.
Yeah,
are his
We're
main
doing a
addictions.
lot of promo for Blue Tiger and Promises. So let me just say that Shelly is the director of the Bel Air Recovery Center.
It's just my life is so promises.
But you've learned so much. It's really
learned so
impressive.
much from
and
it,
I'm glad you've
and-
seen all the different flavors of kinds of addictions that are out there. And you sort of paid attention.
What is the Blue Tiger?
I mean, the only reason I
represent?
know right now that my fiance's there, so that's
What
all I
is
know.
the-
I'm going
what
for a
is-
couple's
Where
therapy
does the
this
name
Tuesday.
come from? Is that
wow.
a part of sex
Yeah.
addiction?
Blue Tiger?
Tiger. What does it mean? Like Tiger Mom or what?
No, there was Waking the Tiger. There was a famous book by Levine Peter Levine that was about the trauma
Maybe
stuff.
it has nothing to do
Yeah,
with
maybe the guy who
Yeah.
owns it just
Sounds
likes
like
the
a
color
strip
blue and he
club.
likes
Well, maybe
tigers.
it has nothing to do with
Are you
anything.
sure you didn't get the names mixed
I
up
would,
and
if I
that's a
had one, I
bar
would
you're
call
shipping
it.
in?
No, I would call mine the Pink Pomeranian. I like pink and I like Pomeranians. So
You know, it sounds like
maybe
That's
it
what
sounds
she
like
would call it. So maybe
So,
he likes
yeah.
the blue tiger.
it sounds like Indian imagery. You know, like maybe some Indian.
But it's
Feels
funny.
Japanese to
You know
me.
what? When I go there on Tuesday, Bob, I will ask them
ask where they
why
got the
Blue
name.
Tiger,
Say we
and I
wanna
will
take
make
a
sure
tour
to let
down
you
there.
know.
Let's take a tour.
I'm
down
going to
there.
say he doesn't
might
care about the
keep one of
program. He
us.
just wants to know
They
why
might
Blue
keep
Tiger.
And it's just men.
Yeah, just men.
Just men.
And they only have 4 to 6 there at a time. And here's what I don't think is great about the program. See, it's not a commercial for them. Is that I find it strange that they have them doing only a 12-day treatment program. They call it a 12-day boot camp because to really, with these sex addictions, any treatment, you really need at least 30 days. I think 90 days realistically.
Well, but there's not a medical piece. You know what I mean? It's
There's
just
no detox.
It's hard
Yeah.
to justify
It's hard to
staying to pay for that.
because they can if they stay active in their program on the outside, they should
Okay.
be able to live independently, but
Yeah.
they've got to do it. And
Do
that's-
the
You
work.
just really like inpatient treatment, don't you?
Well, I just think that it takes, if you're a really bad sex addict and you're seeing prostitutes constantly or
There-
porn
there
all the
are
time,
places
it
that will
takes
hold
a
longer.
longer time to create a behavioral change.
Well, it takes
I
a
think
lifetime, I think.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
Mary.
but-
That's Mary
I
saying
mean, but
that.
90 days of treatment increases your success rate 50%.
And you identify with sex addiction for a while too, right?
No, I realize never sex addiction.
Because sex and love kind of goes together.
Yeah, that's the thing mine was definitely a love addiction. Because
Yeah.
I've discovered that, I don't want to ever just have sex with random guys.
Right,
and,
right.
And I was discovering when I was doing my radio show a couple of years ago, and I did the topic of one night stands.
Yeah.
Because I just assumed I must have had plenty of those. I've never actually had a one night stand because mine were always, even if I met the guy that night at a bar and had sex with him that night, I ended up dating him or having a relationship. Even the guys I'd meet on the road traveling, I'd fly them out to LA to stay with me. So mine was always around a relationship. It was never just purely sex.
Trying to have those babies.
No, I was not ever trying to have babies.
But they
then.
do. It does.
I want honestly, ideally, I was like, if I could have a baby at 50, once my looks are, no, once I,
but that's
I don't know, not that they go,
women,
my fiance's 51 and he looks great.
Women sort of back into sex addiction through love addiction, though, Mary Ellen. They kind of come to it that way. And so, all right, we got to wrap everything up. We do. It's
like a breath of fresh air that comes in. You gotta get in our fields. You gotta stay sober.
Well, I'm going back to college, so my fiance wants me to pretty much end the appearances I have lined up, and then because he went, when he went back to college, he didn't even go to medical school until he was like early 30s.
Whoa,
he didn't even. Yeah, he had dropped out of college.
No, it does happen quite a bit.
Yeah, he went back to college around 27 after having dropped out.
Particularly around his age, they liked that. When the medical schools liked people that had other life experiences coming into medicine.
But he's inspired me because I already have a degree in theater, so why not? I did a lot of psychology classes. Originally, I was just going to go for my KDAC, which is a 1-year course to be drug and alcohol.
No, go back to school.
But I'm just going to go it'll probably be 2 years. I have all my core curriculum.
Great.
And go to Cal State Northridge, and then I can do psychology and try to really.
Oh no, I think this is an excellent avenue for you.
I thought I was too old to go back to school, and then he was just very supportive of that.
You guys, thank you so much, and we'll see everybody.
I love you, Dr. Drew. I love you too, Bob.
Love you.
We'll see you all next time. One of the most crucial components of addiction recovery is accountability. Part of what makes addiction so difficult is the inability to self-regulate. Now, this is especially problematic for those in outpatient recovery or pain management program. And while the facilities require regular urine tests to ensure compliance, frequently the actual tests are not even observed. And this led to an epidemic of falsified samples where patients either use someone else's urine or widely available synthetic urine. The result is a lot of addicts carry right on using undetected, and they get none of the benefits from treatment. The only objective test we have for addiction is the urine screen. Now, recently, I learned about a new solution that virtually eliminates the possibility of faking tests, even in facilities where they are unobserved. This is called Tox Protect, a DNA-verified drug test and lab service that provides 100% sample authenticity. Tox Protect was created by Genetox Labs, can be used in place of any standard urine drug test. It starts with simple one-time cheek swab to establish the patient's identity. Once submitted, each subsequent screening uses DNA testing to verify that that sample matches the patient. In addition, Tox Protect screens for synthetic urine and irregular values that would indicate dilution or other adulteration. In other words, this pretty much guarantees accountability. I'm excited to see this service being used, and I think it will significantly improve an addict's chances for successful recovery. I'm going to be talking more about Genetox Labs and Tox Protect on future shows. Thankfully, Tox Protect is being used by more and more facilities every day. Be sure to ask for it by name wherever you or your loved one is receiving care. To get more information or share it with your facilities, go to drdrew.com/toxprotect. That is drdrew.com/toxprotect. So, Bob, we have a very special guest today.
One of my favorite human beings.
Go ahead.
Heidi Fleiss is here online with us.
Hey, Heidi.
Hi, guys.
Oh.
Hi.
How are you, kid?
Well, the truth is, I do struggle with my addiction. I've watched, I don't know, I'm sure you watch Montana Meth and Sheila Nevin's Meth Storm and all that. I do watch those things to horrify myself, but it hasn't happened all the way yet. And then a few months ago, I realized I really don't need to do drugs anymore. I finally have money. I have this and this. And I started to make them some changes to get them out of my life forever.
Cool.
And
awesome.
I ran into one roadblock to overcome, and then I'll be all right.
What is motivating you? Why the change of heart?
I think before I was kind of stressed over money and my future and handling the stress. Drugs is a coping mechanism where you don't have to think about it or stress about it.
Anxiety.
And yeah.
I always had this fantasy, I've told you this before, Heidi, that you're going to go get like a professional degree or something, or a veterinary degree or training or something. Every time I talk to you, that fantasy comes to mind for me. Are you thinking about that?
You know, when you told me that, I wish I took it seriously because I'd be a doctor right now.
Yeah, you would be. That's right.
I would.
But guess what? Guess what? We'll talk 4 years from now, and we could say this. We could say the same thing. That's
Her
right.
dad's a doctor.
It's not too late.
Her dad was a doctor.
But what I'm doing, Drew, it's a higher calling. And I know Martin Luther King was a doctor. And people like I said, Cesar Chavez, Susan B. Anthony. Do you remember maybe 25 years ago. I think the girl's name was Jennifer Butterfly Hill, and she sat up in a tree.
I met that girl.
Wow.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
We're getting an internet problem.
Challenges and injustice. I'm sorry, technical difficulty?
Yeah, technical difficulty. So
Okay.
the girl that lived up in the
that
tree
stayed in
to
the
save
tree.
it,
Okay.
right?
She was a teenager. Her name was Butterfly or something. She sat
Yeah.
up in an old oak tree, and she stopped, a huge corporation of logging people. And she saved the forest. And I always thought about that, to be at her age, 14, 15, and sit up in a tree 2 years. That's hardcore, and that's admirable. And that really stood out in my mind when I heard about it, even though I was a teenager. And what I'm doing is the same kind of journey. It's something that is not popular. If someone told me, Heidi, your friend, whatever, they're saving captive macaws right now, I'd be like, what a kook, what a weirdo. It just sounds so weird, but it's a problem. And
you want to know my take, Heidi? I've known you a long time. You want to know my take on why it is? You are truly a compassionate person. I know most people don't know you. They just know what they read in the papers or know about you in the situation you were in. I know you, and you have as much compassion and empathy as I do, but you have contempt for humanity.
I do.
And that's a bad combo.
It's toxic waste.
It's a bad combo.
I think humanity's toxic waste.
It's not. There's goodness everywhere.
I think the planet can't sustain the population. I think that, I think that there's nothing humanity contributes the planet benefits by except for destruction.
You proved my point. So, Drew, add that up for us.
Yeah.
And she's now found something to put her compassion towards, which are the birds.
No, I haven't found it. Bob, I don't want, these birds are so horrible. It's not glamorous. It's not fun. They're annoying. It's so hard.
They are scary sometimes.
I cannot go on with my life and not. Someone has to try and change this.
But we were at this point 5 years ago.
Well, change what?
They can't. You can't take these birds and put them in cages and they live 80 years. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You just can't do it.
In a society that's so divisive and so hateful, what do you do with your compassion towards others? You can focus on children like I have been. I just want to help children and be around kids.
But why would I? A lot of people do that. No one helps these birds. These birds need help. What I encounter it's so painful.
Well, I'm scared you're going to get so famous with it that every person who wants to dump a bird dumps them on you.
Sure. Well, hopefully one day I'll have a setup where that would be okay. When people bring up the dolphins and the whales, I say, I'm about the captive macaw, and I'm not trying to rescue the species at all. And I'm not trying to reintroduce them to the wild. No. The ones that are languishing, in detached structures and these void lives stripped of all their dignity are the ones that I'm trying to change.
What do you think it is about this particular species that attracts you the way it does? Its plight.
I think probably because I hated the cage. At first, I thought it had to do with my prison, Drew, and then I realized it has to do with my mind. That the thought of living my whole life in one spot would be so awful, Drew. Imagine if you lived your whole life just in one spot.
There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Americans living in prisons for the rest of their lives.
Do the drugs lock you in or let you free? I mean, I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, when I was 19, I lived in outside of Geneva in France in a chateau, maybe 14th century chateau. And there was a little village called Seyssel where a river ran through the little town. And it was one of those cool, old stone village, but it was generation after generation after generation lived there. And I thought, how come no one built a rowboat or a raft and just went down the river? How come they just know they're going to Excuse me, I'll go outside.
She wants to go outside.
And what answer?
The bird wants to go outside.
What answer did you imagine?
I think that, and I thought, how come they wouldn't build a raft or just go and leave the village? Leave the village.
What'd you conclude?
That some people have that mind to leave the village and some people don't.
Okay. And what are you?
I couldn't stay in that village knowing there's the whole world out there.
But it's strange to me that you ended up in a desert.
That is just, I could change that at any time now, but that's only because it was for the sex business, because it's legal here.
I see. Okay. So,
it's
not about the desert.
And I was too high to realize to buy a property in Los Angeles, so I spent $500,000 on some property here back then. And I made a lot of money from Bitcoin right now.
From
Bitcoin? Yeah.
You did.
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. I did. I bought in at 600.
Oh my
$600?
Jesus.
Yeah, and to save myself, it's the smartest thing and stupidest thing in one. This is what I did. I bought in at 600. I don't know what made me research it and do it. And then because I was concerned about my future, and also because of my addiction, gambling, and my soft heartness, what I'm doing with the birds, I had to put the money away from me. So a friend in New York, I've known 20 years, of course, but I didn't know the account was going to go to over 4 million in 10 months. And so I have some issues with her, but that'll be worked out legally.
So let me ask you this. One of the questions my father-in-law asked the other day, and I didn't have the answer to, what do you buy Bitcoins with? American dollars? Chinese yen? How do you get in? Does anybody know?
I'm going to explain really easy Bitcoin. Okay, don't think of it as a currency. Think of it as a software like iOS, like Android, or Microsoft. Like when you buy Microsoft, every time you buy it's already built in the computer and you're already paying for it. So that's how you're buying Microsoft. When you buy Bitcoin, it's the easiest way. I'm going to send you some by email, Bob, Andrew.
Okay.
On Coinbase, when you register, you link your bank account and you can buy and sell it the way you want.
Do you know about it, Drew?
What's that?
My son does a little bit.
Does he?
Yeah.
And
this is what's interesting about the cryptocurrency. Our whole system's going to change. To me, Wall Street and all that stuff, it's old technology. It's archaic. People are based on profit and losses, quarterly earnings. If you're on the blockchain, there's books. You can't cook the books. You can't have those crooked books that, that documentary. Did you see it on Herbalife? Mm-hmm. Did you guys watch it at all here?
I didn't. I'm familiar with it.
Okay, I guess. Okay, well, Herbalife, you're aware it's a fraud, right? It's not a real product. It's a pyramid scheme. Herbalife is based on getting.
So many people are involved in the pyramid scheme. I see all the bumper stickers.
That's why it's going under right now, because there's not enough people on the planet to sustain it. It's based on getting your family and friends to sell more Herbalife. That's how you make money on Herbalife. It's not some product that it's like something you would buy at the dollar stores, like sugar and some fake stuff. There's nothing beneficial in Herbalife.
Really?
It's like
I thought it was like a whole food you could eat. Bruce, you want to chime in? Are you on Herbalife?
No, I know about Bitcoin.
Oh, you do?
I bought some Bitcoin before.
Oh, you did?
Okay, you bought the Bitcoin. So you know about Bitcoin. Well, so people say, Bitcoin's a fraud, a pyramid scheme. No, it's not a pyramid scheme, because that's Herbalife, multi-level marketing. It's based on bringing your family and friends in to make more money. And then if it was, a Ponzi scheme, that's borrowing from MasterCard to pay Visa, like Bernie Madoff. He borrowed from one investor to pay the other. Bitcoin is exactly what it says it is. It's a blockchain technology.
I would just say the one thing I would say is that I showed this article to my son about Sir Isaac Newton, who bought into the South Sea the South Sea bubble, the South Sea company. He bought into it and made a ton of money, and then got out and was very happy. But his friend stayed in and made a lot more money. So he got back in and made a lot more money and then lost everything. Right. Sir Isaac
but this
Newton.
isn't a bubble.
Sir Isaac Newton.
This is not a bubble, Drew.
I understand.
But let's talk about meth. So I knew Heidi before the meth. I knew Heidi before the meth.
Bitcoin,
this is not because of meth. This is how she is.
No, I know it's Heidi. What's the hustle?
Wait, before meth, listen. Before meth, one thing. Okay, since Bitcoin's inception, every year it's beat out every other investment, real estate, gold, Anything else, it speeded out, except for 1 year when Mount Gox went under, and that's a reason why.
I would
it
just
happened.
argue that tulips did as well in 1642.
No. But this is a real technology. The blockchain technology is being implemented.
Okay, I know.
Blockchain.
I understand. Yeah.
I think the issue with it is if
the scalability.
It's going to be right, but it's going to be regulated. The SEC wants to regulate it as a security because it represents more of a security than a currency. Yeah. And if they do that, then there are tax issues.
So what? So what? Pay the taxes. Who cares? Pay your taxes. Who cares, right?
Well, when the SEC gets involved, I think it becomes a lot more complex. But I don't think it's going to go away.
Heidi could be out by then. So, in event. So
anyways, what you got to understand is everybody's going to be seeing this about the birds and about the Bitcoin and Bernie Madoff and Herbalife and think it's meth. No, this is how Heidi is, and I think she needs to embrace who she is and stop the drugs and just be Heidi. What is wrong with that, Heidi?
I would argue because that her disdain for humanity creates a hole, and the birds don't fill it.
You need people.
There's pain. It's because I'm like when I picked up those birds, and the pain of seeing these two birds that loved each other that were padlocked 3 feet apart. One was deprived of natural sunlight till it went blind, and fed only sunflower seeds till it went blind. It just. That someone, here you are, Drew, you and your wife, and Bob, you guys, you're going to fancy dinners, you're buying fancy cars, and your fancy stuff, and these two birds are sitting in a dungeon, just hurting.
But they had you. But here's the thing. And there's human beings that are living in dungeons and all this kind of stuff, and you try to do what you can where you are with what you've got, and you rescued them. That's the beauty of the world.
Oh, this makes it worse. Someone captured these from the wild, 50 years ago to make money. That's the part that makes me sick.
If humanity is such a waste, what about your contribution to those birds?
Yeah, it's valuable. It has value. I think about it a lot. You remember when I was out there with you and I went to a thrift store near your house and I bought a chest of drawers. I still have it. It's in my bedroom. Every time I come by
that place.
Yeah. Every time I look at it, I think of Heidi's out there with those birds and she's fighting the good fight. There's something that enriches us all that you're fighting the good fight for the birds and I'm fighting the good fight for the drug addicts. But
I think Heidi needs. I think you need people more than you think, Heidi.
You know the Pahrump Country Club. We had the Forrest family reunion there about 25 years ago at the Pahrump Country Club. All my uncles just sat at slot machines, just smoking cigarettes and playing slot machines. It was the saddest thing you ever seen in your life.
I'm telling you, out here, it's Velveeta cheese and Wonder Bread. The architecture is a manufactured home.
And that's where you chose to live. Wow. You've got $4 million in Bitcoins, and that's where you're living.
No. I was really high at the time, obviously. Because I didn't realize whatever, in 2006 or 7 when I bought out here, that I could have bought an $800,000 house in LA or something and bought my birds there. I could have bought it right outside of LA. I didn't have to move here, but I just wasn't thinking clearly then.
Well, Heidi Fleiss, the lady of Pahrump.
Susan, you want to invite her back right now?
Yeah, we want you to come back, but we're going to get you a better mic.
Yeah, we got to get a mic. All right, I love you. I'm going to get your phone number.
Nice talking to you guys.
Okay, Heidi. Talk soon.
And I would do Celebrity Rehab for free, okay?
Visit us out here when you're out here, all right?
All right.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you.
Cool.
Okay,
bye.
And our very special guest today, we have Steven Adler and his mom, Deanna Adler. And right now, we're just going to talk behind Steven's back for a minute with Deanna. Her new book is called Sweet Child of Mine.
I have it in my hands.
It is an extraordinary. I had Deanna on my KBC program about a week ago, and was frankly deeply moved talking to you. I was.
Oh, thank you.
Do you know why?
No, I don't know why.
Well,
I know that Steven is a success story for you,
which is helpful, which makes me feel good. But you're a success story, not because of me. You did a lot of work. I could tell.
I know that. I don't know.
Deanna, when has had to deal with Steven forever, and the distortions and the it's hard. It's painful to have a child with addiction. Oh, it's scary.
Al-Anon and Nor-Anon, huh?
Yeah, Al-Anon. You want to hear something funny? My daughter-in-law, Carolina. She kept saying to me, go to Al-Anon, go to Al-Anon. Finally, I went to a meeting. She took me to a meeting. And so I walked out of there, and it made me feel so much better because in reality, I don't have it so bad.
Yeah,
I don't have it so bad.
It can
because,
be really bad. Yeah. Your kid's alive for one thing.
You could be married to him.
That's right. That's exactly right. But not just that. But I just listened to these mothers talking, and I said, "Oh my God!" And I started going to Al-Anon meetings, and sometimes Stephen makes me go to AA meetings, so I could understand because I don't have an addictive personality, so I don't understand. Why do you take something that's bad for you? I mean, I would never take anything that's bad for me.
Explain, Bob.
Well, it just seems like it's a good idea at the time.
It's a brain thing. It's a distortion, right?
Yeah.
It's going to solve problems, but it creates problems. And
Right.
in the moment, you don't see the create problems part. You're only concerned with solving problems. Right. And even when you know it's not going to solve a problem, there's your part of your brain saying, do that no matter what. Just do that.
And then even when you know it's causing most of your problems, you'll say, yeah, but it's also the thing preventing me from feeling the problems that it's causing. It's just crazy. It's craziness.
Yeah.
On the way over here, I'm with my son Jamie and my son Stephen, and they were talking. And Jamie was saying how he has a friend that does the craziest thing, that he doesn't grow up because he takes drugs.
Right.
So Stephen started explaining to Jamie how when you first start taking drugs, say it'd be 11 or 12 years old.
That's where you stop.
And Stephen is telling Jamie this.
This is blowing my mind.
Me too, right? Now you know why I was so moved.
You're not going to believe it when you see Stephen, how he is. I stay at his house. You think for 1 minute that if anything bad was going on in his house, I would stay there? Forget it. I stay there for months at a time. I do, because he's such a nice guy. And he's so kind and so generous and so sweet. And he really is.
He always has been.
Yeah.
And so some of the stuff that she talks about in this book. Now, first of all, people I think remember on Celebrity Rehab when Deanna came in and visited Stephen, and he threw the chair and talked about distortions, about you. He had all these memories of you throwing him out on the street and stuff that were distortions. Does he still cop to that, or does he still adhere to that?
I'll tell you a little story.
Her story was, how can I throw you out at 11? What about your bar mitzvah 2 years
Yeah,
later? How did we give you a bar mitzvah?
I don't understand what he's talking about.
I wish I'd known that.
Well, yeah, because you believe what he tells you.
I don't know what to believe. When people are in their disease, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, you can't believe what he says.
I know not to say no to somebody because I need to engage them. You know what I mean?
So
talk about some of the stories you were mentioning. In the
Well,
book that you were
I've
a part
known
of.
Stephen this whole time, probably since '83 or something. Just the sweetest guy, and sweet and naive, kind of, right? That's how I would say he was at 20, right?
What I wanted to say was the story. This is a different story about being on Celebrity Rehab. About 6 months later, after me, I must have been on the show for maybe 20 seconds on the screen. And I'm standing in Las Vegas, and I'm at a buffet. A man and a woman and a little old lady in a wheelchair. Did I tell you this story?
No.
A little old lady in a wheelchair with white hair. She must have been 80 years old. And this couple about in their 40s. So they're staring at me. I'm with some friends. And I said to my friends, I says, what are they looking at me for? I don't know who these people are. Well, eventually they walked over to me and they said, Mrs. Adler? I says, yes. And they said to me, they saw me on Celebrity Rehab. I says, how can you recognize me after 6 months? I was on screen for 20 seconds, and you know who I am? And they said, oh, we'll never forget that. We'll never forget you.
Oh my goodness.
And then they started telling me how much they love Stephen and how wonderful he is and how he's the reason that I started playing the drums. And, blah, blah, blah. The same stories, And I said, thank you so very much. I says, when I call Stephen tonight, I will tell him that I met you. Then he gives me his card. And he was either an electrician or a plumber, I don't remember. He says, Mrs. Adler, whenever you need some help, just call me. No charge. I says, wow. I says, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And then he walks away. And he comes, a few minutes later, he comes back. And he says, Mrs. Adler, you're not the meanest mother in the world. She is. The little old lady in the wheelchair with the white hair. And I said, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And that's a true story.
Yeah,
You're not the meanest mother in the world. She is. So,
What are some of those stories, Bobby, you were looking at going, I was there for that, and I was
well,
there
the
for
thing,
this?
I'm sure you remember when he left the band, right? That week, I was around that week.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, a lot of the people were worried, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Duff and Slash, most importantly. And so I was sober at the time, so I got nominated to try to just be with him and make sure he doesn't hurt himself or, and I remember going over that old house in Studio City off Sunshine or whatever that he had. Mm-hmm. He was just sitting in a chair crying, watching Guns N' Roses videos. Mm. And I just all my codependency and my, it's just like, what do you do?
Wow.
And that he survived that is amazing.
Now, when
it's a testimony to how resilient drug addicts are.
Yeah.
When he was thrown out of the band, we didn't know what was going on because he wasn't in touch with us, because he was ashamed. We would see him occasionally, but we didn't know that he was getting thrown out of the band. And so we're watching the MTV Awards show. And I'm sitting there with my husband and my youngest son, Jamie.
That's how you found out he was out of the band?
Well, because Axl says Steven Adler is not in the band anymore because he takes drugs.
Oh, my God.
So I said to myself, look who's calling the kettle black. Mm-hmm. I mean, really. And so I got up out of my chair. I'll never forget this. I got up out of my chair, walked out the door, walked around the block, and came back in the house. And I told my husband, I can't go to work tomorrow. He says, what are you talking about? You can't go to work. And I says, I can't go to work because everybody now knows that my son's not in the band and he's a drug addict because I always denied it. I was in denial.
Yeah.
So,
first time a rock and roller's ever been a drug addict.
Yeah.
That's sort of shocked everybody.
Because we were so naive and we didn't know anything. We really didn't know anything. And in reality, we don't want to know anything.
Of course.
Of
course.
And so and my husband says, you're going to go to work tomorrow, and I promise you, nobody's going to say one bad word to you.
Yeah, he's right.
And he was right.
Mm-hmm.
Not one person. I worked as a waitress at this deli, and not one person said one wrong word to me. From that day forward, but again, they never asked about Steven
I'm
again.
Sure they felt bad for you, if anything.
I was so hurt
for you.
If you have a son that's a drug addict, maybe 10 people know, but 30 million plus know that my son's a drug addict.
The book is Sweet Child of Mine. He's coming in, yeah.
He's very handsome, my son.
I know.
As you well know.
And look at this.
Look at this.
Oh, hey, buddy. How are you, man? What's he showing you, Bob? Bob, put your headset on. I can't hear you. Fantastic.
Holy moly. Steven Adler bearing gifts.
There you are. It's on. It's on now.
For agreement.
Now you can.
This is Tom Brady's favorite book.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, Steven.
I can't hear you.
How about
the transformation of Steven Adler?
How about your mom?
She's wonderful.
Oh, my God.
We both have grown so much.
I told you, I talked to you on the phone the other day, and I was moved by her, and the more I talked to her, the better it gets. There's no holes in the story.
Everyday life gets better. That's the whole objective, is to have a better day than yesterday. I'm so proud of my mother.
The book is great.
And I'm so thankful that she's a part of my life and that I'm being able to be a part of her life, and we're going to enjoy life together.
Tell us about this book you handed us.
All right, the book I got you guys is, I fully support AA, and that is definitely a way to get started. But I've been practicing this book called The Four Agreements by Juan Miguel Ruiz. Mm-hmm. And it AA gives you a start. This book has helped me become the person I used to be before I had an abusive relationship with life that I was kicking my ass.
I actually don't disagree with Steven. Yeah,
you don't need to be on drugs either.
Well, no, we always call it, what Bob and I always sort of call it, like full recovery. AA gets you into recovery, but full recovery is up to you.
Many
making an effort.
Well, it sometimes means different kinds of therapies. It sometimes means some spiritual something. It sometimes means a career something.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, but it's what interests us in treating addicts is become more than you knew you could be. You flourish in a way you didn't expect, right?
I never thought I'd be this happy. My life has done a complete 180.
And
all right, 179, because I still enjoy smoking a little pot. Which last time I said that on your show, my wife Carolina said that the internet people are saying all this. Hey, I used to drink rubbing alcohol with Gatorade, mixed with Gatorade. Okay, I smoke a little weed. Who cares?
Not only that, but your mom told me a story that made my head spin too. She goes, "Well, my daughter-in-law Carolina took me to an Al-Anon meeting." I'm like, "What?
Yes.
What?"
Yeah, she goes to and AA meetings.
I heard the whole story, but the fact that Carolina is the one now bringing other people into 12
steps. Yeah, vegan. She's 100%
she
vegan.
Here?
No.
Please say hi for us.
Of course. Hi, Mama.
She suffered much like your mom with your illness.
She suffered terribly.
Yeah, your illness.
I mean, she was right there. Yeah, a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean to.
Your illness. I didn't say you.
No.
Illness.
I didn't mean to, but I was sick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same sickness as if I had asthma or diabetes, but people don't think of it that way. I mean, I
can go home now. Let Stephen talk. I'm done.
Yeah,
my work here is done.
When you drink and do and take drugs and do whatever, you're not a rational person.
Did he rehearse in your garage when they were kids?
No. She didn't have a garage.
No.
They had a U-shaped garage.
I want to hear about the Tupperware party.
How old were you? 12?
11,
12 years old. And I'm having a Tupperware party. And he comes into the house. And he walks in the house. And he vomits right in front of everybody.
and walk away into my bedroom.
Yeah. And so I said to my friends, I says, "Oh my God, he must have the flu." Denial again.
I threw up 6 Old English 800s. Okay,
smelled like beer. Smelled like malt liquor.
That's not a flu. Okay?
And so I said,
"That's a severe sickness." Okay?
He must have the flu. I told my friends.
Yeah, denial.
Could you spell the malt liquor?
You want to know something? It was so many years ago, I don't remember.
Yeah.
My dad used to smoke cigarettes. I don't even remember smelling anything.
Yeah,
it was that long ago. But I know I used to say, "Please don't do it," and then now I do. But
we got to get that next.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Do
the
gum or something. Get trying.
I did. I got the gum. Yeah, give me a piece of gum before I go crazy.
Yeah, it's good. I'd rather you do that.
What is that?
Yeah,
even if it's some of the time.
The problem with this gum is you go through the withdrawal just trying to open it. Yeah.
So
crap.
Your mom now has her book. Do you wear the 4?
He gave me the book. He bought me the book, and I read it. I have it right next to my bed.
You're reading it,
and I read it,
Is it helping
every
you?
day. I read it every day.
Is it helping you?
Does it help me? It makes me feel better. Let's put it that way. I don't have any guilt about anything. Like he said.
What would you say to moms that feel guilty?
Or shame?
That are
shame was her
led to
thing.
believe that they're responsible for their adult children having addiction.
Or they feel like somehow they are or should be responsible.
Because that's the thing that binds the illness.
Yeah.
It keeps you sick.
Now that I know more, and I see that my son, he's alive, he's good, he's well, it's not my fault what he did. And I know that. And it took me an awful long time to realize that it's not my fault. I didn't teach him to drink. I didn't teach him to do drugs. I didn't teach him anything like that. And
nobody in my family drank or did drugs.
Everybody is responsible for themselves.
Yeah.
Drew, zero in on what I'm trying to describe, because I know you can put it in a way that's easily understandable. People are getting blamed for other people's problems.
Well, because it's easy to blame somebody else for your problems. Misery loves company. Hell, it's not my fault. If people would be just more honest and open up more, it'd be so much easier.
I would argue, though, that you're all right. You're right. Everyone's correct. But what Bob's talking about is sort of a new phenomenon. And I would argue it is
dangerous, I think.
No. But it's also disrespectful and demeaning to the addict for a parent to have the grandiosity to assume that anything that's happening to their child is all about them.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
All those years that Stephen was on drugs, he used to curse at me. I mean, terrible, terrible words. But I was always there for him. I never stopped loving him because I knew that it wasn't Stephen that was doing that. It was the drugs that was doing that, not Stephen. Stephen Adler has to be the nicest person you ever want to meet.
I'm the coolest guy you're ever going to meet.
But so when he's being mean to me and he's pushing me around and he's saying terrible things to me and he doesn't talk to me, he stops talking for months and months and months. it's not him. It's not my son. It's the drugs.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that. And I finally realized that.
Well, I think that what...
But hang on, though. But you assumed the shame for his illness.
Oh, God, I was so ashamed. In denial, ashamed.
But what do you say to parents that are sort of in that same mindset?
All right, stop it already.
That's what we say.
Stop it.
It's hard to get them to do so.
That's part of the four agreements. Stop it already.
It's
Stop
so
it.
easy you hear it, you read the book. It's like reading a Sesame Street book. It's so basic and so easy to understand, but it's so hard to do.
Deanna Adler has relinquished her mic. I'll tell you to whom in a second, but I want to remind people again, Sweet Child of Mine is the book. It was written with the help of Lawrence Spagnola, and so Larry is here with us. Larry, welcome to the program.
It's an honor to be here.
And Jamie is here as well, Stephen's brother.
Hey, Doc.
And we brought Lawrence in for many reasons. He is not only the author of Deanna's book, but also...
Stephen's book, which got the whole ball rolling, Appetite for Destruction, 9 years ago. We came out with that, and it was a bestseller, and we were very fortunate to reach a pretty wide audience. And it was because of that I think it paved the way for Deanna to write an even broader treatment of what happened with the opiate addiction and her dealings, not just with Stephen, but with the entire band.
Did you know the magnitude of her recovery when you launched into this? Did you understand how much progress she had made, or did you learn that in the course of it, or did it keep happening during the book writing?
It actually was, it was evolving.
Yeah,
I mean, we literally finished this book, Dr. Drew, and then within a 6-month period, the Dr. Kornfeld incident came up, tying Prince in with Stephen, and then GNR reunited.
Now, in addition to these guys' books, Deanna's and Stephen's, you wrote Rodney King's book, too.
That was a wonderful opportunity to get to know somebody really well who he had patiently waited, Doctor, for every politician, every cop, everybody that was involved in that incident to put out their book and get on their talk show. And then he wanted the last shot. And so even though it took 20 years, I believe he does have the final word on it. And what he wanted people to know more than anything else was that he himself kind of rose above his body that night and saw himself getting beaten.
He thought he was going to die.
An OBE.
He told me he thought he was going to die.
Yeah, and then he doesn't know how he got sucked back in, but that's what kept him going.
Jesus.
And that's when he had a pulse. But it's amazing how much abuse he took. And whenever we'd even just gather to have lunch, he continually would shift in his seat because he had just had so much trauma to his joints.
Steve got to know.
Well, we were roommates.
Impeccable with your speech.
Oh, yeah, no. He told me many times, he said, I had every right to have my ass beat. He said he was on PCP, he was drinking and driving, and on PCP. He says he would pull over, the cops would go behind him, he'd pull over, and then they'd walk up to his car, and he would take off and just, speed off down the street, not even watching, bumping other cars. He said he was wasted. He said he was a total prick to him. He said everybody thinks that, yes, it was terrible, he got beat up. But he was all, you don't understand what an asshole I was to them.
Well,
okay, if you're an asshole to cops, you're going to get your ass beat.
He didn't deserve what he got.
He didn't.
He deserved to be restrained.
Yes, but...
And I saw, we all saw Rodney drunk. He's a scary dude when he drinks. He's the nicest guy on earth.
Big scary dude.
He is the nicest guy on the planet when he's sober.
Yes.
I asked him what was the most important thing about him getting this book written, and he said, not that I live on, but that my words do. That long after I'm dust and in the ground, people are going to remember, can't we all get along?
Yeah, Bob and I were heartbroken when we lost Rodney. He's the
Isn't that from the Wizard of Oz? Can we all get along?
Sounds like it should have been.
There's no place like home.
Okay, that's it.
So
no place like
in
home.
addition to Deanna bearing witness to your illness, Jamie had to live through a bit too.
Well,
right?
yeah.
Jamie?
Well, he went through a little.
Jamie and I used to
experience himself.
Well, I understand, but Jamie and I used to have many conversations about you and
before you guys ever met.
Yeah, was it before even?
Before you guys met.
Is that right? Is that we were?
Because we used to get on the phone and we thought he wants to come in, and you're like, "Are you sure?" And then the first time you came and met us, I think it was in Canoga Park. We had that house in Woodland Hills or something.
I just remember us. I shared with you your fear.
Definitely,
that's what I remember.
But tell him why you got sober.
I don't know.
Okay.
Why did I get, that's a good question. To have a better life.
No, you told me that how can I have your brother put in there and say my brother's this, my brother's that, and try and get him help when I'm doing drugs too?
Yeah. I remember actually when I called Dr. Drew, we were going to meet up maybe 2 weeks later. And at that time, I was using. And the first time I talked to Dr. Drew, I didn't pick up after that. And I even told Dr. Drew when he came up to the house, he says, "Are you sober?" I said, "Well, I've been sober for the last 2 weeks because I didn't want to be a, what's the word called?
Hypocrite?
A hypocrite.
Well, I've forgotten that for this moment. I remember you telling me that. And I just want to know what I was walking into. Were you using too or not? We need to get you
I wasn't using at that time.
No, but I just couldn't tell what was going on. It was a pretty chaotic scene.
It was chaotic.
I was kidnapped. They kidnapped
we
me.
kidnapped the guy.
My mom and dad had these gang members.
I had the Crips kidnap him,
and they took all my money. They were giving me better crack than I was smoking. They were giving me better pills than I was getting. More of everything. It was like this one kid would pull fucking painkillers out of his ass. Literally, I go, "Dude, you got any painkillers?" "Yeah, here you go." It was like always. It was nonstop. They had me. The longer that they kept me, the longer they were going to get paid.
Wow!
And my mom was paying them thousands of dollars a week. So the longer they had me, and all they did was get me high. And then when I tried to get my own drugs, they handcuffed me and leg cuffed me to the staircase, the railing on the staircase. And I pooped my pants. They left me there for like 2 hours.
I didn't know anything about
that.
Oh my God! Is this in the book, Larry? Because that sounds like a movie right there.
Yeah.
I think we need to come out the movies.
7 separate parts in the book where Stephen hits such rock bottom that you have to just say he's going to die or he's got to get into rehab.
But rehab, for one, doesn't do anything unless you want it to.
Right.
2, nobody can make you change unless you want to or you're in jail.
Well,
you're in jail. They can make you change.
I got a good one, Drew. I want to tell you. So I don't know what year it was. 90s or whatever.
93, 94 in New York.
Yeah. So I drove him to the airport. I booked him to go to Hazelden. I had the guy. He knows what he looks like. Sitting at the airport. Somehow Stephen doesn't get off the plane. Stays on the plane. Then somehow, how did you get out? And he ended up in New York.
For 2 weeks. 2-3 weeks.
Wow. One-way airplane to Minneapolis. He stayed on the plane until he knew that the Hazelden people would go away. And then got off.
And went to New York. I went to some club. People recognized me. Did drugs for like 3 weeks and came home.
But this is your poor mom's getting anxious hearing these stories, right?
Oh, she knows everything.
Give her the headset. Hold on. We're having to pass the mic around here because there's so many of us in the room right now. We have 4 mics.
One time I took Stephen to the airport. And I says, "You know what? I'm going to stay here till the plane takes off." And everybody gets on the plane, and lo and behold, Stephen jumps off the plane just before they're going to take off. And so I'm there. So he's surprised that I'm there. He thinks I'm dropping him off, and then I'm going to go in the car and go home. I said, "Stephen, what are you doing?" And he was so mad at me because he saw me, and I just took him right back home.
Well, the addict was mad.
Yeah.
I feel like
because I've wasted so much money going to treatment centers when I knew I was only going to stay 2 or 3 days. I was doing it to
make everybody else happy.
Exactly, appease you, appease.
Yeah, that's what you used to tell me.
And I'm sure you heard many times, "Stephen, what are you doing?"
And the reason he said he was doing these things was to appease me.
Well, he was right. He was being honest.
Yeah.
He was being honest. That's what he was doing.
Being an addict and getting any help whatsoever is all about being honest.
Okay. The time that Stephen was kidnapped, I said, wait a minute. By the way, before I say anything else, you see these 2 handsome guys on the sofa?
Yes.
I hatched both of them.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
So anyway, Jamie calls me up and says, "Ma, you got to drive Stephen to Los Angeles." I said, "All right," because I want to help. Okay. I didn't know what was going to happen over there. They didn't tell me anything.
You didn't take me to Los Angeles.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. They drugged me at this guy's house.
No, I'm not talking about that. This is nothing. This is something else.
This is the time when she was smoking crack in the car with Mom.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that one.
So anyways, so I go to Stephen's house to pick him up, and he's angry because he's high already. He's angry.
Yeah.
And I said, Stephen, we got to leave by 2:00 because I can't see at night driving. And it's going to get dark. So finally, about 5:00, he's ready to go. He throws his suitcase. You throw your suitcase down the stairs. All right, let's go. So we get in the car. We get in the car, and I'm driving, and I've taken this trip numerous times. I know where I'm going. I know how to get from Las Vegas to L.A.
He needs a little detour.
No detour, nothing like that. So I'm driving, and we're about an hour away from Los Angeles. And all of a sudden, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was.
Oh, did you get high in the crack too?
That's exact. And I didn't know that at the time. Oh. So I said, I stopped the car and I said, Stephen, I says, I don't understand. Why are we here? Where are we going? What are we doing?
Look what I did. Look what I did.
And because he's smoking crack in the car. He's smoking crack. And I keep telling him, I said, stop smoking. I don't want you smoking in the car. Stop smoking.
So basically what you're saying is my mom smoked crack.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Crack is whack, Mom. Crack is whack.
So wait,
Adlers have smoked crack now.
Wait a minute. So anyway,
I thought you didn't do drugs, Deanna.
I will not talk about that.
Unintentionally.
And so I stopped the car and I said, Stephen, I says, I don't understand. I says, I don't know how to get to Los Angeles. He says to me, he says, Ma, don't worry, I'll guide you. He's so high on crack, and he's going to guide me. So like a dummy, I says, okay. I says, okay. So he's telling me how to get to Ventura Boulevard.
Oh, my God.
And an hour later, we were in L.A. right where we had to be, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was so happy that the police didn't stop us. Nobody looked at us,
Wow.
It was crazy. But I drove all the way there, and I'm secondhand smoke. And I kept telling him, don't smoke in the car. Don't smoke. But he doesn't listen to me.
So I didn't listen to you when I was 11. I'm
right,
not
why are you
going to
listen now?
We're going to start with
still don't listen.
With new campaigns about secondhand crack. Forget secondhand tobacco.
Secondhand
so, all right,
crack.
Stephen, pleasure, man. Thank you for coming. Good to see you, buddies. Thank you, Larry.
Love you, Bob.
For
Appreciate
doing
it
this.
so much.
Thank you very
Jamie.
much.
Special guest today.
Dennis and Darren.
The great Dennis Rodman.
Darren, huh?
Well, we'll give you top billing, Dennis, of course. Darren's new book is Aiming High. I think we talked to you about it once before on this podcast. It's the subtitle is How a Prominent Sports and Celebrity Agent Hit Bottom at the Top. And then Dennis very kindly joined us as well today. And last time I talked to Dennis, I said, Dennis, did you ever imagine you'd hear the words Dennis Rodman and Nobel Peace Prize in the same sentence?
Yes.
Not even close.
I disagree. I think those words are aligned now forever. You may not get the Peace Prize, but I'm just saying people are acknowledging that you were onto something.
It was.
It's all good, Dr. Drew. It's very nice to see you, man. Nice to hear you right now. So it's very, we turn it off right there. So the last one I saw you, Dr. Drew, it was very awesome to see you, man. And, it's a very special day for Darren Prince.
Yeah, tomorrow is. Tomorrow we're going to be at Barnes & Noble, right?
Well, Darren and I got to meet her at the White House. And I got to get back into that because the stuff that's coming out of there is concerning me a little bit. But I was very impressed with Darren Jeff Sessions and his whole move because that has moved the battleship a little bit. Darren,
is that where you were there, Darren?
I was there.
Yeah,
I was there in March.
You got to work. That's a microphone there. You got to use that thing.
Were you that optimistic about it with Kellyanne Conway leading the opiate brigade?
I figured something had to happen at some point. I really did. Whether it was a priority or not to them.
No, but I just got to say, Dennis's thing with North Korea made me believe maybe Kellyanne Conway and Jeff Sessions can solve the opioid problem.
Well, Sessions certainly is working hard at it. He has turned the battleship a bit.
But not to change the subject.
Oh boy, hold
Dennis,
on.
what about when the press secretary called you when you were in Singapore? Sarah Sanders.
That was very. That was very emotional.
Can we bring it back?
That was
to
very
that
emotional, though. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that part. I thought that the fact that when I went over to Singapore to try to just to see the leaders get together, it was amazing. The fact that just me being the sin that hopefully that history was making, and I was there and I was happy to be there.
What did Sarah say to you?
In Donald Trump's words, he's so happy for you, Dennis.
So happy for
you.
you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, baby. So it was just good. It was just good to see that the fact that even though I've said it when I first started going to North Korea, I said it the first time, and I said it today. I didn't care who got the accolade as far as getting North Korea and America together. I will say, whoever gets it, please, let's do it, because I think it's going to happen. I've been saying it for 7 years, and all of a sudden, Donald went over there. He tried to make peace with Kim Jong-un, and I hope it does work for the future.
How did you get the instinct that there was some possibility there? Because to the rest of us, it looked like impossible at the time.
Yeah, it was funny, though. I was with in Donald Trump's his office in New York, and when I first went there, Donald said that Dennis, it's a great thing that you're doing going to North Korea. You're doing a great thing. And it was amazing the fact that when Donald started to play this little game, as far as like, well, am I going over there? I'm going to call him a Rocket Man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And stuff like that. And it was amazing how that I was telling people, I said, Donald did one thing that people didn't recognize. He said one thing before he walked into the summit. He said, I can tell in 1 minute I'm going to like this guy. And it took him 5.5 hours to come out and say, you know what, I like this guy.
But he it seemed like he had the door kicked open from the beginning, which is a hard call.
But let's go back to Celebrity Rehab for a second, Dr. Drew. And there was a moment for Celebrity Rehab viewers, if you remember, Dennis told you how the world works.
Yeah, but that didn't go on TV.
It didn't go on TV.
No.
Dennis, do you remember? You told Dr. Drew how the world works, and there's God, and then there's sports heroes, and then there's movie stars and rock stars. I like the fact that movie stars and rock stars are on equal pavement, because I always thought movie stars were above rock stars, but apparently they're equal. And then politicians are under that, and then everybody else. And he was right. Once again, Dennis Rodman was right. Because when you confronted him, Drew, he said, 4 presidents have kissed my ass.
I think it was 5.
5 presidents have kissed my ass. And that when men get around...
6. Now 6.
Now president of North Korea.
7. Yeah. Oh, 7. Trump.
Both Bushes. Yeah.
Dennis, you are correct in how the world works. I just want you to know that.
No, it's all good, though. You know, the main purpose of why we're doing this today, Dr. Drew.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the fact that I'm with Darren Prince.
Yeah.
And he's doing some really amazing things, man. You know what? In Jersey, in his hometown, I think the epidemic is called fentanyl.
What is it?
Fentanyl is really bad.
Fentanyl.
It's bad.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's very bad. It's very bad right now.
No, listen, Dennis. Darren and I were talking before the thing heated up here that we want to go out and do some speaking together to try to. You know, Darren can tell his story and his dramatic story of recovery and stuff, and then I can help people make sense of it. We want to go out there and talk about it. But be that as it may, you may not remember. There's 2 things I want to just focus in on. One is a Darren thing and one's a Dennis thing. Bob's telling us about how the world works, but the part that you missed, Bob, that Dennis told me about how the world works, he said to me, now this is the part I like, because he said, Dr. Drew, you and I will have a relationship. We don't have one now, but we will get one. So long as you understand how the world works.
And you understood.
And I said, okay, I'm willing to deal.
But the theory, like everything with Dennis, is just no holds barred and honest, and that's what I love.
Yeah, and we did.
And the fact is, I went to the Lakers game. Darren, you were there. When you look around courtside at the Lakers game, it's the titans of industry, it's political leaders, it's movie stars and rock stars, and they're all bowing down to LeBron.
Yeah, wanting to be near sports athletes.
That's crazy, but
Dennis is right.
I'm telling you, when you said that thing 10 years ago, I thought you were out of your mind. I now believe it is true.
And so the other issue is I wanted to say something about Darren. Oh, the Darren, Dennis, called me when you were on Celebrity Rehab. I don't know if you know this. And he was regaling me with his own recovery, except what was wrong, Darren?
Right.
I was on Suboxone.
Yeah, you
at
were
that
not
point.
sober.
Yeah, I was on the opiate blocker for 14 months.
Sometimes our greatest advocates are not sober.
Yeah,
It's true. I was on Suboxone. I'd still have a few cocktails with Dennis. I was on a mood stabilizer, antidepressants, anxiety medication, and I thought I was sober because I wasn't doing the opiates.
Yeah, that's pretty close
Makes
to
sense,
what
right, Bob?
America believes now.
Right.
Dennis kicking the knowledge down to the world of how the world works was not on television.
No, there was a lot of good stuff. It bothered me that it wasn't. I know. But I want to go back to Kim Jong-un and Korea. How did you know that there was potential there? I don't understand. Did you just know he was a fan and you thought, God, I wonder if I remember there's a human being there, I can reach him? Or what were you thinking? How did you figure that out?
It was amazing, Dr. Drew. Good question. When I first met him, it was like by accident. And we did the Harlem Globetrotters. He just asked me to come up and meet him upstairs. And he walked in, and I saw this little small Japanese guy walk in, and I see 10,000 people standing up, clapping. And I'm sitting down. I wonder why they clapping. I thought they were clapping for me. And I'm standing there like, okay, shaking my hand. Hey, guys.
Wow.
Because of the way the world works.
All about him again.
and
all about him again.
It was amazing. I was like, oh my God, they love me. I said, wait a minute, hold on. And this little short guy walks to me. He walked towards me. He's like, wow. And I still didn't know who this guy was. I never met the guy, right?
Does he speak English?
He don't speak English at all. He just came over. He's waving. I still don't know who this guy is. And next thing you know, he sits down, and I keep asking, who is this guy right here that people love so much? I didn't even know who the guy was. Wow. I'm like, okay, great. He said, this is a Supreme Leader. I said, Supreme Leader? Who is that? I kept like, I'm so stupid. So it's all like, okay, great. But it's all like, okay,
and
great.
what did he just? Well, the reports were that he's a fanatic about the Bulls. Was he a fanatic about the Bulls?
That's how it started. Yeah,
he loves Chicago. He loves Chicago, man. He loves Chicago Bulls, man.
Vice Media came to me about a year before it happened, and I didn't know anything about North Korea. A lot of people didn't at that point, and they showed me a photo of him in boarding school wearing a '91 Rodman Bulls jersey.
Does he speak English, Kim Jong-un? Do you know?
No.
Did he speak English?
No.
Did he attempt?
No.
Translator. And because he went to school in Switzerland, right? And that, I guess, in Korean. But so did you organize the whole thing?
I organized the whole thing.
So what made you think that was a good idea?
So here's what happened. I talk about it in my book. This is amazing. So
how much had he thought? I managed Dennis Rodman. Here's what Darren thought. I managed Dennis Rodman. How much trouble could he get in North Korea?
It wasn't even about the money. They came to us. They changed the date 4 different times on me. And I kept calling him, Dennis, you're going to Korea, And then finally the contract.
And was it just sort of an appearance?
With the Globetrotters. He was going as a player coach with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Okay. And was this a world peace sort of a thing?
No, at that point it was just an international exhibition game like any other country that we would have gone to. And I finally got the contract from them signed. I go downstairs to Steve in my office. Steve's historian, real intelligent guy, not half brain dead like I could be, like Dennis could be. And I'm like, Steve, Dennis is going to frickin' North Korea. I'm pumped. I finally got the deal signed. Psy, the Gangman style guy, he looks at me and goes, you frickin' idiot. That guy's from the South. What are you talking about? He's not going to North Korea. And he's like, you better get Dennis on the phone right now. So he calls him up and he goes, dude, Darren just signed a deal for you to go to North Korea, not South. Dennis is like, whatever. And he goes, can I explain to you about the North? Dennis, I'll never forget this. He goes, dude, just make sure I'm protected. I get in and out safely because who knows, maybe something historic could happen by me going there.
Wow.
Never for a second.
Is that in your book?
For a second did he say, I'm not going.
Is that in your book?
It's in the book.
All those statements, all those. Oh my God, that's history. Man. That is world history.
And then they called me 2 days before when he was in Beijing on the stopover, and the producer said to me, of the documentary for Vice, said, you're about to have the most famous person in the world on your roster. I'm just telling you right now. I didn't know what he meant. And he goes, this is going to put the wedding dress to shame with the amount of exposure he's going to get.
Right.
And I woke up at 4 a.m, like everybody else, that picture of Dennis next to him, that epic photo in time, and it was a complete shit show.
And so you thought at the time, I imagine, that, hey, Well, I'm imagining.
Not that the wedding dress at the bookstore wasn't a shit show.
Really?
Bro, what a run. He comes back. We got a wonderful pistachio commercial. We got the Foot Locker commercial. He gets the Newsweek cover. He opens up Saturday Night Live. Our heads were spinning. We're like, what the hell is going on?
But it was conflicted, right? There were people judging him.
No, that was the next time.
It was 50-50.
The next time is when you really got criticized.
The first trip they were judging, it was 50-50. It was the second and the third trip that when he went
now,
back.
That's where I want to pick things up for a second. Dennis, as your chemical dependency counselor, who I love you dearly, I was watching the morning news and I saw my client had relapsed and was in North Korea live on television.
With a drunken meltdown. Yep.
I just because I get a little crap from people for my clients' behavior, and I got a lot of texts that morning. Oh, great job you did with Dennis Rodman, and
it's funny. I did not get any grief,
and so I really, in my mind, Dennis, I thought you stayed up all night and you were drinking Jägermeister out of a coffee cup like you like to do. Is that pretty much what happened?
They don't have Jaeger over there, right?
No. What?
You were tired too. You weren't as drunk as you seemed.
No. I was saying, but either way, I'm just saying though, so you could get the real story. The fact that when I was over there, they love to drink, and I love to drink at the time, stuff like that. So basically, I said some really things that's out of context, and it was just things went south. And when I came back, I got so much havoc about what I said. And then next thing you know, I get off the plane in Jersey, New York. Darren said, "You're going to turning point." I said, "What turning point?"
I got the rehab I'm on the board of. I don't want to hear it. I'm getting death threats.
You went right to rehab?
Yeah.
I'm my goodness.
All right.
I'm like the FBI's calling the office.
You're going to turning point, Darren.
Were you actually sober at that point? You're Darren?
I was sober.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the FBI, because that was a very confusing time, right?
Yeah.
The FBI is calling you why?
To debrief him, the state. I mean, they all wanted to talk to him.
But in retrospect, it's not clear why they were so upset, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's against protocol.
He violated protocol, but he was a private citizen.
What's the word?
International decorum or something.
Treason.
Treason?
Yeah, they were trying to get him on treason.
What?
And he gave gifts that were free gifts, not paid gifts, that he picked up in Beijing to Kim Jong-un and his family, and they were trying to get him on that too.
For what would that be?
So
what is that called?
I don't know what it is. Some sort of.
There's a lot of laws, Drew. I don't know if you're aware of this. There's a lot of laws.
We had to hire an attorney to squash it. And I was like, I can't believe this.
God.
The guy just came back after a meltdown. Let him go to freaking rehab.
And so, Dennis, were you aware of these treason allegations?
No, I wasn't aware of that. I was the fact that
We can laugh about it now, thank God.
But then you went back.
I know, I'm laughing at it now. Back then I wasn't laughing.
No, it sounds awful.
But you went back and crushed it.
Like I say, you know what? But it was amazing that, since we're talking about this whole North Korea and the drinking thing, I think the fact that when I came back, that was like what you did to me, Dr. Drew, that you tried to turn my life around. And when I came back from North Korea, that's the same thing what Devin did, because he knew that I was in danger at a particular time. And he tried to protect me. And he said, "You're going to turning point." And I thought he said, "Turning point what, like my life?" He said, "No, you're going to rehab." I said, "Okay, great." And I didn't want to go.
But there was a bit of a shitstorm, so why not go to treatment?
But it was as Darren said, it was a shitstorm.
Yeah. And so how did you go ahead, Dennis.
Well, I'm saying, but it's like I said, it's very difficult to explain what me and Darren relationship is, as far as like client to agent and stuff like that. It's just so hard that people don't understand that you can always have a friend like that in your corner, no matter what, good or bad. I think you know about that, Dr. Drew, because you have so many people in the world, brother. So many people in the world you don't even realize. And guess what? That's what Darren's doing right now. He's been doing it for a long time. So it's amazing that I'm lucky to have that guy in my corner, because I need people like that in my corner to keep me on a straight and narrow road.
Dennis?
He's been doing it with this book called Aiming High.
Yeah.
So you know what? If you read the book, and it's so aiming high about athletes, people around the world. It don't matter if you got money or you got fame or anything, you broke or poor and living in the street, this guy is trying to do everything he can. He'll knock down the gates of the White House to make his point across, and I give him credit for that.
No, not only that. Listen, when I met Darren at the White House, I just went. We started talking about you.
How crazy is that?
Shirley.
Yeah, what?
Right? Shirley.
Yeah, we were talking about
Shirley.
you, and he said to me, he goes, you know what? I got him to have dinner with Shirley, and I was like, oh my God, Darren, you're no. Listen, and I said I said exactly what you said, Dennis, which is that he's got you. This makes all the difference in the world. That he's listening to you, that you're getting his mom involved, and that this is. It was just great news.
And Shirley loved Priscilla, my beautiful fiance sitting here. Remember, Dave?
Okay, Darren, you got to throw the equation, right? Priscilla?
Well done, Dennis.
Well done.
Dennis,
that's 20 years of show business right there.
Covered all the bases. But Dennis, I want to go back to the third trip because I don't understand, and Darren, you're going to have to help us with this too, how you go from allegations of treason to, hey, I'm going to do that again.
Trump gets elected.
Trump
gets
elected. Was
elected.
that the third time?
Yeah.
The third time was with Trump.
Yeah.
There was a 3.5 year break before he went back again.
But that was because Trump was going or it was there?
No, well, Trump was president at that point.
So you could do it.
It all changed once Trump got in.
And that's when Potcoin sent us the cryptocurrency.
Celebrities aren't going to get convicted under Trump. Come on, Drew. You know how the world works. Dennis told you how the world works.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm learning. I got to be reminded.
Wait a minute. Let's get it from Dennis. Dennis, where is Trump on that scale? So he must be up there with the sports icons or God. where is Trump on the Dennis Rodman world of how the world works? He's
well. Hey, put it like this, man. You know what? If you look at Dr. Drew, and you see something about Dr. Drew, I'm going to give Dr. Drew credit right now. Dr. Drew is with the guy Epstein in Houston, and the guy that's on Sunday morning. You know,
the preacher?
Osteen, that's his name, right?
Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen, right?
Yeah.
Joel Osteen, I think Dr. Drew is on this level. And I think that the fact that Dr. Drew has touched and affected a lot of people's lives. Now, I think that the fact that Darren is on that path right now. He's on that path right now to try to do the same thing Dr. Drew is doing right now. And I think that if we can all come together and try to make some type of difference to people in the world, because we can't change the world, the drug addiction overnight.
Well, let me ask you this.
But that's what makes Dennis different than everybody else.
No, Dennis has insight. Dennis has a certain kind of vision.
Said.
Yeah.
Because everybody could say, well, I'm rich, I'm famous, I'm whatever. But that wanting to make a difference is the thing that's so beautiful about Dennis.
So hold on. So let me ask Dennis. There's so much tribalism and this split in the country right now. Do you see any road back to healing us?
Well, I think that Dr. Drew, I think you've got more insight than I do as far as looking to people's souls and into their future. I think that God and Jesus didn't try to improve people's lives. All they asked them to do one thing: can I help you? That's what God and Jesus did. They said, can I help you? The only thing he says, put your hand out, let me hold your hand. Let me show you the way. Pretty much that's what you guys are doing. It's trying to help these people that's dire need to try to straighten their lifestyle. And it's amazing that people don't want to understand it because life is moving so fast that we don't understand how to slow down and take a breather and say, hey, you know what? Let me check myself first.
All right. Well, that's advice by itself. Just slow down, take a breather, get off the social media. So now they got the third trip. And so what was that like? I mean, that was scary, right?
The third trip went a lot more in his favor. It really went a lot more in his favor.
Okay.
He came back. He was stone cold sober. Did everything he had to do. You didn't see Kim Jong-un on that trip, but he saw all the delegates, the officials, and Dennis did something so brilliant. He handed them a book. This was was it around election time that I'm thinking? Trump wasn't president yet. He handed them the Korean version of Art of the Deal.
Wow.
And it went viral. You were out there with Vo. You guys picked up the book. You gave it to the Minister of Sports, and it.
I'm saying anyway, Dr. Drew, look it up right now on your computer. Right now, you'll see it. Look at the picture. What I gave it to him.
Unbelievable.
Okay, I will do it.
It was genius. It took over the internet.
Now, then you did. Is that the one we did the interview with Como, the morning show, you at CNN?
No, Cuomo
was that the second trip?
That was the second one.
Yeah, the second Cuomo was
I thought that
Singapore.
was
5 months ago.
The
best one he's ever done.
Oh, but he was still unfair to him. I thought Cuomo
when he was in Singapore.
He always does. He treats me unfairly all the time. But you know what? It's TV, man.
Yeah, it's TV.
Yeah.
He was very complimentary when I did his show about a month ago. He actually said how amazing it was that you predicted that the door was going to open, and who would have thought that the door opened? And the South and the North both gave you credit.
He didn't say that on TV, did he?
He did. He did.
It was
on
all
my
right.
segment.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Well, that's good.
On TV.
And how about Kenneth Bay, a year after your meltdown, coming out publicly saying that your rant raised awareness and he believes helped get him out?
Yes, it did. Wait a minute. What am I?
But,
so,
anyways, so I got to go to dinner and let you guys know one thing, guys.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to talk to you guys today. Dr. Drew.
Is this the picture? Is this the
I'll
picture?
see you tomorrow, right?
Hold on,
It's up
I'm
there.
showing the picture. Oh, it's up on our screen. So I've got the picture of you handing the art of the deal.
All right, and Bob and Dr. Drew are going to come see us at the book signing tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
What time are you going to be there?
Yeah, what time are you going to get there?
1 o'clock.
What time it starts? 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Yeah, he'll be at 6:30.
Yeah.
12:30.
12:30. Okay.
All right, if you're at 12:30, I'll be there at 12:30.
12:30.
All right, have fun at dinner.
All right, man. Good to talk to you.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Dick.
Bye, man.
All right, that's about it for this episode of This Life. Check us out at KBC in Lawrence Savon, 790 Midday Live Talk Radio. Monday to Friday, you can also tune in every day live via the magic of the internet at kbc.com. If you miss it, we've made it simple for you to find all the shows at drdrew.com, the Adam and Dr. Drew podcast, the One I Do By Myself, the Dr. Drew podcast, This Life, of course, with Bob, Swole Patrol, Mike Cantho at his new health and fitness podcast. You can find us on Twitter at This Life Podcast, at Dr. Drew, Derry W, at Rehab Bob Forrest, and of course, our lovely producer at First Lady of Love. I think I know who that is. If you love this show, please subscribe and tell a friend. We appreciate it when you do. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. Send us a message. Join the email list at drderryw.com.contact. You'll also get a weekly email from us on that. While you're at it, at drdrew.com, please support our sponsors by clicking through the banners. We only advertise products that I can get behind. So thank you for supporting them, those that support us. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.